Finally, the ruler who united 8 nations has descended in Throne of Souls. The king sits majestically in clothes bordered with gold. Congratulations, you are the first king in the game. Rewards will be issued and available for use. Finally, the young man exclaimed joyfully. Fragments of memories flashed. He deserved this title. Young Master Huazin came to the stream. Congratulations on your achievement. If he is not mistaken, Young Master is the first to complete the game. Shards of memory rain down. The guy is pierced with a blade in the stomach. Red liquid stains his white clothes. The guy asks in a hoarse voice that turns into a scream who the enemy is. A man in a black robe and with a blade in his hand, without a drop of sympathy, calmly asks that Huazin, a small insect, dared to imagine himself as a king. The young man cannot atone for his sin. It is better for him to disappear. Excited cries of people appear about the need to provide first aid to a bleeding 20-year-old man. The pulse has dropped to 0. Resuscitation is urgently needed. Countdown 3, 2, 1 digit. Again 3, 2, 1 digit. 3, 2, 1. The guy opened his eyes wide and jumped up, screaming in fear at what he had dreamed. A bead of sweat runs down the guy's face. His facial muscles are tense. He's nervously trying to understand what's happening. He looks around himself in the place where he woke up, looking to see if there are any wounds on him, because the guy clearly remembers that he was stabbed. But where did he end up? Focusing on the location, he notices a huge number of disgustingly mutilated human corpses around him. The guy screamed in alarm. He was on a mountain of corpses. He was in hell. The guy in fear tries to sit still so as not to fall from this mountain. He nervously says that he never did anything wrong in his past life, so why did he end up in hell? Who is he? The young man clenched his teeth, bent down and grabbed his head with both hands. His words sounded in his scream about what it felt like his head was going to fall off. What was happening? All the muscles on his forehead tensed, and his eyes opened wide. The corners of his lips went down and he relaxed his jaw. In an instant a realization came to him. He remembered. His name is Bai Kai. He is 20 years old and he was a streamer. The young man remembers himself with a smile on his face, satisfied with his life, looking at the golden poster from the window of the vehicle. He wasn't that popular at first, but his fan base started to grow due to his streams. He played Throne of Souls, and the golden cover of the game comes to mind. The game takes place in the Middle Ages, when a ship with modern technology suddenly descends into the world. The game is adored for its unique universe and excellent art. However, many were put off by the high difficulty. Such players began to watch the progress of the game on streams, and the guy liked the number of views that the excited spectators were gaining. A bloody scene of the death of the hero of the game arose in his memories. When the guy had almost reached the top, he was suddenly killed. A voice from nowhere began to say that he died, but not completely, to be more precise. He was reborn. The voice asks if he has already come to his senses. The guy opened his mouth and turned around in fear, asking who was talking to him. The voice seemed familiar to him. The voice says that from a measurement perspective, every game ever created represents its own independent world. The guy with gray hair asks in shock. This is the voice of the gaming platform assistant. The voice continues to say that the player Bai Kai's death activated a special reward, namely the key of rebirth. He was reborn in the game Throne of Souls. He looks at the golden ones in disbelief gate and asks that he ended up in the game. The guy walks along the golden glow beneath him, trembling all over from tension in his body and clenched fists. He says that it turns out that rebirth was a special reward. He died under strange circumstances, but he was given another chance. But if you think about it like that, why hasn't he reborn in the world of beautiful ladies and did not end up in a game like the Memory of Summer Thrill? He asks this question. A picture with a golden frame appears in front of him, depicting 2 warmly smiling girls in swimsuits on the beach. The guy clenches his fist and points his finger at the picture. With furious misunderstanding asks for what sins he ended up in Throne of Souls. It would be better if he just died. At least he wouldn't suffer. A voice from outside says that the key of rebirth is a special reward. There is no such thing in other games. He listens to the voice contemptuously, crossing his arms over his chest and clasping his eyebrows. He says, in this game it's so easy to get all sorts of bonuses, but what do they want from him? The voice says that he just needs to show what he is capable of and he will be on top again. This time he will receive a more generous reward for the title of king. This will be the key to time travel. The platform will allow him to move through time and he will be able to return to his world. The young man, covering his eyes, raised his shoulders and arms in amazement and asks why he was simply not given such a reward in the first place. Although he is very interested in this reward, according to the rules of the game there is no mechanism for endless rebirth. With such game difficulty he can die even from a stray dog. The voice answers the indignant guy with gray hair that endless rebirth is indeed not provided. But the guy himself is not stupid. He already has enough gaming achievements on the platform, so he can easily choose a character, and this will give all kinds of equipment. The guy is in the space in front of the golden wall. He lowered his hands and clenched them in fists, asked in amazement if it was true that he could choose any character. The thought flashed through his head that now he was even sorry. In his thoughts, the guy is indignant because he's not such a crazy fan. He can't remember the passage from all the streams. There's everything in the game, from popular AAA rank masterpieces to little-known creations without visual effects. If only he could use the equipment of everyone characters, then that would be great, the young man thought as a golden glow illuminated him. The voice said that he could also choose an ordinary peaceful player. The final choice was his. The main character squinted and his eyes narrowed, folding his fingers in front of his mouth in a thoughtful gesture. He reflects on the choice of a peaceful player, thinks that he can stay away from the most dangerous boss, although he will still have to face hunger and disasters. The system is simply mocking above him. She deliberately planted a peaceful character so that he would only try harder to become a ruler. Opening his eyes, he grabbed his chin with 2 fingers and broke into a smile, after which the guy said, "He can't be fooled anymore. He's already lived for 20 years as an ordinary person, so he's not going to tolerate this anymore. He's wondering if there are any steps on the way to becoming a king. Time restrictions." The king appears and the voice of the game instantly answers the young man that there are no limits or punishments. The voice asks the player by Kai whether he is sure that he wants to follow the path of becoming a ruler. The main character confidently stretched his hand clenched in a fist forward, showing his readiness. He says, why is the game still asking him about his readiness? Of course he is ready, the contract is signed, says the voice. As the golden shards rush into the white void, the game's voice speaks to the player, by Kai, saying that he hopes he will sit on the throne again. One of the creatures on the ceiling, hanging upside down, screams at the main character, trying to call him, says that he. Hanging upside down, the young man raised his head and, opening his mouth, looked in horror at the ceiling. He saw several creatures there that were hanging upside down. A guy in armor and with long golden hair hung upside down, swaying. He looked at the main character, who was on a terrible-looking mountain of corpses. The guy with golden hair asked if Baikai had not died a couple of days ago. He already thought that Baikai was decomposing, but the main character turned out to be alive, followed by a second question from the golden-haired guy, whether the hero had been reborn. The guy with golden hair is called Gray. He is level 21. He is an elf magician, a guard. Next to him his comrades are hanging upside down, a man with stubble and a stern look and a creature with a cat appearance. Gray says he doesn't care, let Baikai get them down from here. The man with stubble is called Chaos. He has level 22. He is a warrior, a guardian. He looks sternly and screams. Gray is mocking or something. Does he think that some timid guy will help them? Gray didn't see how Baikai was afraid. If not for the traitors, this would not have happened. The creature with the face of a tiger has level 20 and is called Dogu, and he is a cat monster, a guard, hanging upside down displeasedly, saying that now neither Princess Mina nor the royal guards matter. He is already tired and says that it is better to die. Princess Mina hung next to them with her eyes closed. She had long silver hair. The girl was a human priest, a princess of the Kingdom of Stars of level 12. It flashed in her thoughts that the Kingdom of Stars and the name Mina sounded very familiar. Baikai opened his mouth in amazement and opened his eyes wide, looking at those who were hanging in front of him and thought that these heroes would not be met right away. And the cave itself did not look like a place for newcomers to spawn. A trickle of sweat flows down his face. He looks at them in amazement. The corners of his lips twitch down. He is scared to even think that if he had chosen a peaceful role, he would not have died so soon. Baikai is a level 1 person. His class has not been chosen. At the moment he is on a terrifying mountain of corpses in a deep lamentation cave, illuminated by unnatural light, which for levels 20-30, he thought it was some kind of hell. Rebirth is the beginning and the end. Is it possible that Baikai, who chose the path of the king, will immediately face death? The village of Anka Kafranka for levels 1-10 is located next to the mountain, and the hero is perplexed what is happening. The whole storyline is broken. In fact, he should have appeared first in the village for levels 1-10. Burnt Jungle location for levels 10-20. Then he would go on missions to Burnt Jungle for levels 10-20. Then the main character would go into a dungeon called the Cave of Lamentation for levels 20-30 and save the princess and her guards and escape. The hero looks forward with concentration and decides that he will think about it later. First he needs to choose a class. He needs something to get out of here. Bai Kai confidently extended his hand, open in his palm, the other he clenched in a fist, standing in front of the golden wall, and ordered the system to activate class selection. The voice of the game spoke out of nowhere and presented several classes in front of the hero that the request has been received. Class selection is activated. Player Bai Kai select a class. The Brave Warrior is a melee class, has a long sword and a powerful shield, a perfect balance of attack and defense. The Tree Mage is a ranged class combat, able to use spells and potions, the perfect combination of attack and healing. Assassin is a class that combines ranged and melee combat, uses daggers and throwing knives, the perfect combination of fast attack and agility. Master of the Elements is a class that combines ranged and melee combat, uses a staff and a bow, capable of controlling the power of natural elements. An Outcast is a despised class with no characteristics, possessing only rags and a club. Bai Kai doesn't understand why ask at all. His choice is the same as the first time. His choice is an outcast. The voice of the system asks why among such amazing characters he chose the weakest one. It seemed that this time the choice would be different. The guy confidently folded his hands and closed his eyes, saying that the choice of class in the game affects survival at the very beginning. You shouldn't get carried away with all sorts of additional bonuses. Only the rogue class has difficulties with survival only at the beginning of the game. In the middle of the game you can find the hidden one NPC and reset the settings. Then you can easily change the class. The guy with gray hair put one hand on his belt and raised the other in the air, looking at the image of the outcast class and explaining to the system that despite the high complexity, this class is the most convenient, and it also has a hidden feature. You can get achievements by constantly changing classes, and you won't have to go through special missions. This is one of the reasons why he became the first to complete the game and get all the achievements. The voice of the system replies that everything is clear. Bai Kai carefully thought through his actions. As befits a top-level player, his quests have been updated. The main quest is to survive and get to the exit from the Cave of Lamentation. The reward for completion is 1 account unlock point. Account unlock points unlock 25% of items in a current player's inventory randomly, and without level restrictions, or randomly unlock a new game account along with 25% of inventory, items plus skills. Bai Kai chose a class and jumped off the mountain of corpses with a club in his hand. He thinks that now the main thing is to survive and get out of here. Desperately hanging upside down, the team calls out to the guy, asking if he has come to his senses, and if he sees that rope, they ask him to untie it, and then they can get out. The main character turns his head, looks at the tree wrapped in rope and approaches it, while the people who are hanging shout to him to untie it quickly. Bai Kai thinks about whether they know what the consequences will be if he unties it. In an instant, he unties the tight rope, for which the whole team thanks him. Gray puts one hand on his belt and the other behind his head, smiling and showing how confident he is, saying that if it weren't for Bai Kai, they would have hung like that. Dagu, without expressing emotion, says that he would rather hang there and died calmly, at the same time making the sounds of meow meow. Chaos carefully holds Princess Mina, who is unconscious, and with excitement in her voice tells Gray that now is not the time. He asks to bring the princess to her senses. Gray closes his eyes and smiles widely, saying that he is here, asks Chaos to stop sulking. A sharp weapon very quickly flies at Gray out of nowhere. In an instant, the elf is thrown into the wall, which shatters into fragments from the blow. Dagu opens his mouth and eyes in horror. Chaos also looks at what is happening in horror, changing his face. A huge creature with 8 horns and a black beard appears in front of them, with a bloody axe in his hands. The leader of the clan of Plague Beasts, Modik, level 30, Chaos and Dagu are wary, and the first one asks in shock, "Is this the leader of the clan of Plague Beasts? Where did he come from?" Heart-rending screams and memories of the bloody axe and the laughter of the boss, of the killed guys lying in horror and blood on the ground flash before Bai Kai. Since he decided to run away, he will have to face the boss of the dungeon. The main character decided, because this battle is extremely difficult, so that everyone must give their all. But if they enter into battle without skills and equipment, they will doom themselves to death. He furrowed his eyebrows. The corners of the guy's lips went down and his eyebrows closed over the bridge of his nose. The hero looks seriously and intently, deciding that he needs to go to the cave alone to get a reward and unlock his account. Then he will think about whether it's worth going back and saving them. They are important NPC, but now survival comes first. Bai Kai holds a baton in his hands and with a confident step moves further away from the guys, to which they shout after him what he is doing. Is he not going to help them and is going to run away alone? Gray raises his eyebrows in shock and looks displeasedly at Bai Kai, while Chaos smiles slyly and says that he already said not to waste time on him. He's just an outcast, stupid and cowardly. Believe me, he won't last a minute. The main character looks at them self-confidently, raising his hand with a baton in it, says, well, they won't believe him anyway. Soon they will understand everything themselves. The hero feels that it's almost time. Bai Kai approaches the creature wearing parts of iron armor and part of his head from a skeleton. He is called a level 5 Plague Beast cub. He holds a spiked club in his hand and sucks his finger. The cub of the Plague Beast laughs maliciously, revealing 2 rows of sharp teeth and opening its red eyes wide, trying to scare. Chaos laughs, saying that he warned him. This is a level 5 cub, but a level 1 rogue cannot handle him. The cub takes his spiked club in both hands, laughing, begins to run and swings at Bai Kai, while our hero takes his club in both hands and takes a confident stance. Realizing that a fight is inevitable in any case, it will be difficult to defeat a level 5 monster, he thought. The muscular monster makes a strong swing, trying to bring the hero to death, but Bai Kai boldly dodges, grabbing his club in one hand. Thinking that it is not impossible for him to defeat the monster, the hero was not damaged, so his health bar is full. The cub monster swings with force a second time and does not understand what is happening, why Bai Kai was able to jump back and dodge it a second time. The hero's health bar remains full. Gray, Chaos, Dagu look intently at what is happening, are surprised that the outcast was able to dodge twice. Chaos exclaimed that he was so lucky. Gray says that he dodged very uncertainly, but the timing was chosen very precisely. Dagu also expresses his opinion about that he's not that simple of a guy. All those reincarnated are quite strange, but he doesn't care. Now he just wants to die. After Bai Kai dodged, he landed in a stable position with one hand on the ground and the other holding the baton. A smug and cunning smile flashing across his face, confident in himself and thinking about what he will do next. The cub of the plague monster, laughing hysterically with his eyes and mouth wide open, desperately throws a lit bomb with a skull inside at the guy. He continues to laugh, extending his arm forward after throwing it. The bomb explodes, turning everything into orange flames. Bai Kai holds the club in both hands and quickly, with a bloodthirsty look, rushes through the flames at the self-confident monster, embarrassed by surprise. The hero decides that it's time to chop it up, and with a serious look, frowning, he swings his baton and hits the monster in the jaw with all his might so that fragments fly off from the monster. He is damaged. The health bar is reduced by 1 part and the cub screams loudly. Bai Kai, disheveled, sweaty and covered in the blood of the monster, breathes heavily from fatigue, points the bloody club at the monster, says that this is the end, the final blow. The cub of the plague beast opens its jaws furiously, its mouth narrowing in growing anger. The main character screams for him to die and swings for the last time, hitting the target exactly so that the head of the baby monster spins at a tremendous speed of several revolutions. Genuine surprise appears on Gray's face, such that he opens his green eyes wide, raises his eyebrows and opens his mouth. The others react less emotionally. Chaos frowns and the corners of his lips go down. Doug envy the monster and makes a meow sound. Gray screams exclamation. This the boy was able to kill a level 5 monster with a club without receiving damage. Chaos admits that he underestimated him, but this will not make it easier for the guy to survive. He will die anyway. Bai Kai tiredly sat down on the dead body of the monster. He holds a bloody club in his hand and leans his hand on his knee, trying to catch his breath. Thinks that he can dodge blows thanks to experience, but so quickly he will not catch up with the monsters in level. The characteristics are still too weak, since he has already chosen an outcast. He needs to adapt to a special style of play. He will avoid battles as much as possible. The system voice says that the player Bai Kai defeated a level 5 cub, received 100 spirit points, 2 gold coins, weapon broken club, melee attack power +5. He opens his stat bar and moves his finger, assessing what he has. Yes, he says, the characteristics are terrible. There are 900 points left before the update, so killing monsters is now ineffective. The main thing is to get out of the cave as quickly as possible. The team hanging upside down in complete darkness shouts to the main character to stop. Will he really not even think of helping them? Because the more people there are, the higher the chances of getting out alive. They ask to be lowered and they will do whatever he says. He got gold equipment. The hero takes the monster's spiked club and throws it over his shoulders, carefully standing up to his full height. Princess Queen of the Stars Mina woke up, began to tell Gray to forget and not pester Bai Kai. If they can't get out on their own, then they are destined to die. If they can't even cope with this, then how will they overcome more serious trials? She said judiciously, Princess, to which the others exclaimed in surprise, Princess, when did you wake up? She, with an unwavering gaze without a shadow of a doubt, rationally continues to say that she considers such a decision unreasonable, because the main character is only level 1. But she respects this choice, says to let her give advice. She tells him to be careful, because between life and death a fine line. The main character is surprised that even in such difficult circumstances she retains her rationality, truly worthy of the title of princess. The hero walks, confidently turning his head and looking to the side. He says that he has his own plan, but he does not want to talk about it. Even if he says that he will return to save them, they will not believe him, to which everyone asked a question in amazement. What? Chaos frowns, his eyebrows close on the bridge of his nose, and he opens his mouth in anger, starting to shout that Baikai is deliberately mocking them. To which the princess closes her eyes, her cheeks and nose turn red, and with a peaceful expression says, Enough, Chaos, will you have so much strength to swear at him? It's better to think about how they can all get out. To which Chaos agrees with the princess. Baikai turns his head slightly, directs his thoughtful, serious gaze at the guys, and thinks that according to the plot, they will find a way to escape without his help, but then he will miss out on the achievements associated with Princess Mina. The hero's eyes no longer look towards the guys, and he directed a thoughtful gaze somewhere forward. Thinking that their salvation depended on whether he could get out himself, they are important. But now his salvation comes first. The Cave of Weeping is the last dungeon of the first chapter. There are many secret items here to collect. In the past the guy explored every corner, so the location is familiar to him. In order to meet as few enemies as possible, he should go here, Baikai thinks, looking at the winding stone roads and rocky cliffs. He hid behind a stone and makes sure that a monster with a large weapon that passes by does not notice him. It is necessary to save the main character. He approached an elegant old bowl, which asked who was here. Judging by the smell, it was not a monster. She asked him to come up and not be afraid. She said that the guy was probably wondering why the Chaga was talking, and yes, there was a man inside and the guy didn't hear it. The hero looks at the bowl in anticipation, clenches his hands into fists, while the man inside the vessel says that he went into the dungeon for treasure, but hidden it from monsters, and then accidentally got stuck. He asks the main character to break the bowl and the man inside will be able to get out. Asks him to worry. There are no monsters around and they will not attract the attention of monsters. Baikai swung his club with all his might and smashed the bowl into small pieces, releasing the man, who said excellent. In the bowl was Luchai, a man of unknown class, level 27. The man looked massive and had pigtails on his head. He was squatting and looking from under his brows at Baikai, saying that he saved him. Surprised that the main character is only level 1, Luchai and his debt, Raise can help with any mission. The main character spread his arms to the sides. Luchai, with excitement in his voice, said that his friend was captured by monsters. The guy wants to save him, but he is too weak. Luchai rose and stood up to his full height and said that he understood him, calling him a greenhorn. He brave, but narrow-minded. Baikai was lucky to meet him. Raise asks to show the way. They walked through the cave together and both tensed up, turning their attention to the monster that appeared in front of them and noticed them. It was an adult level 18 plague beast. The monster had a black skeleton mask and a large axe. Immediately the muscular plague beast began to scream and swing wildly at the guys. Raise recognized a familiar smell. Luchai became angry. His expression changed in an instant. His eye slits narrowed, and his eyebrows closed on the bridge of his nose. He shouted that it was this monster who locked him in the bowl, swung his sword at him. Baikai next to him. In excitement he clenched his fists and watched what was happening in confusion. Luchai's sword pierced the monster's stomach. Red blood sprayed out. The monster screamed in pain and lost some of the damage. Luchai clenched his teeth in anger and told him to die. With a sharp swing of his blade, Luchai mercilessly cut off the head of the monster who had once imprisoned him in the bowl. This was his revenge. Baikai praised him, saying that it was great. Luchai said that how could he have entered the cave if he weakling? He suggested going further. Luchai smiled and raised the weapon behind his back and put it on his shoulders, militantly put his foot on the head of the mercilessly killed monster. He said that he heard his friend's voice from there. Baikai stands not far from him and smiles slyly. They are in a large area near a cliff and Luchai says he doesn't know if his friend can hold out much longer. The main character approaches him and puts his foot on a raised platform and seriously says that it is necessary to save him as soon as possible, and that it is easier than ever. Luchai folded his arms across his chest, smiled madly, his eyes widened, and he kicked the main character off the cliff in the back. Baikai, with horror and fear on his face, opened his mouth and screamed, falling down into the darkness of the cave. Luchai squatted down and looked down on the falling guy. His face was adorned with an arrogant smile. He said, "Oh, he's back to his old ways. When he sees someone on the edge of a cliff, he just can't help but push." Baikai save Luchai. But the first is reborn, so such people are destined to receive punishment if they are identified. From the bottom of the cave came the cry of the surviving protagonist with words about how it became clear that he was reborn. Reis shouted in amazement, "What? You fell from such a height and are still alive?" Baikai lost more than half the damage, but survived. He, holding his hand to his side, all battered and bruised, sits on the ground next to the bloody corpse of some stranger. A guy with a painful look says that if he had jumped himself, then would have died, but he was pushed, so he is fine. At the same time with his words he thought that although he did not die, he felt pain throughout his body. He praised the gods that he could pick up equipment here, received by the game system, one vessel with blood, one fragment of a glowing stone. Luchai slowly moves away from the cliff, says that he heard that the reborn are very strange. He probably should have hacked him with a sword from the back, and not pushed him. Well, now Baikai is stuck in the abyss, so sooner or later he will die. In the game, Reis constantly push players into the abyss. However, special benefits can be derived from this. Baikai closed his eyes and used his item, drank from the cup and restored his health. He had not seen such settings before. What kind of rebirth mechanism is this? The guy thought. To which the voice of the system replied that the main information is blocked and now the guy can find out about that the reborn are people who have risen from the dead under unknown circumstances. Baikai opened his eyes wide, covered his mouth with his hand and was lost in thought that the information was blocked. Apparently, such important information would not be revealed just like that. He needed to be careful with the title of Reborn so as not to die prematurely. The guy took the blue glowing stone in his hand and moved his excited gaze somewhere to the side, with his mouth slightly open. He thought that there was no need to worry about it now. There are no monsters behind, but it's still quite dangerous here. The hardest part is just beginning. The guy found himself in a location with a huge mechanism in front of him. This is a hidden location of the Cave of Lamentation. Lost Ruins, the level for the location is unknown. Throne of Souls is an open-world adventure game. The development of the plot is usually abrupt. Players have to look for clues from NPCs, monsters, bosses, and in the most secluded corners, and all in order to reveal the truth of the world. The hero has already completely completed all levels and received all the achievements, so he knows almost everything about this world, with the exception of a few little things. He illuminated the location with his stone and saw destroyed stone buildings. In the center of the world called Pascalo there is a huge crystal, which is called the World of Souls. Under its protection the world was harmonious and full of life. Until one day a spaceship appeared, a drone of the deep void, which scared all the local residents to death. Coincidentally, the ship crashed right next to the crystal and the world was destroyed. Although the crystal was broken, life continued, and other new civilizations appeared. The place where it is now located is one of the ruins of an underground civilization. The hero walked further through the ruins of an underground civilization, illuminating his path with blue light. Deep under the Cave of Lamentation there is an underground river. He needs to get to the exit alive. But no one specified which exit he should get out through. This is his chance, the hero thought, and his eyes narrowed and he frowned seriously, looking straight ahead. But the chance of dying here is much higher than on the main path, since you need to very accurately determine the location of the ledges. One unsuccessful jump and you die, the hero thought when he approached a deep cliff, which was bordered by sharp spikes all around. But he was on the verge of death so many times, so Baikai quickly and boldly, clenching his hands and fists, jumped into the middle of this cliff so that the sharp thorns would not touch him and flew down. He jumped down onto one of these spikes, landing on his haunches and leaning on one hand. He confidently looked forward, thinking that getting to the bottom would not be a problem. The lower you go, the narrower the ledges are, so you need to be even more careful. The hero turned his gaze to the small spikes that are at the very bottom. Although he remembers the location of each ledge, he cannot lose vigilance. His foot treacherously slipped past the ledge. Baikai screamed and flew to the next ledge and landed exactly on it, trying to keep his balance with his hands. He thought that it was necessary to maintain balance. The main character put one hand on his belt and the other on his head. He stood confidently on the ledge and examined the surroundings of the cave and how long he still had to jump down. He thinks that he is almost at the bottom and contentedly wipes the sweat from his forehead, breaking into a satisfied grin. Suddenly a man's voice appears behind him with the words, however. It turns out that the exit is below. A guy with long gray hair frowns and smiles, revealing his sharp teeth so that his gaze looks very threatening. He places his hand on Baikai's shoulder and squeezes it. The main character is stunned, his eyes widen in horror and he turns around sharply. In fear, as he turns around, he swings his spiked club, asking who is there. The guy with gray hair skillfully dodges, jumping up. A guy with long gray hair skillfully flips over in flight and lands on a ledge above. The main character raises his head and asks in bewilderment who he is. This guy with long hair is called Harvey. He is a human, an elemental master. He is level 30. Harvey looks down on Baikai, holding his chin with his hand and smiling arrogantly, showing his sharp teeth. He says that a level 1 outcast is so hot-tempered. Harvey is his that he scared him. Harvey laughed and said to forgive him, because he shouldn't have appeared so suddenly from behind. Harvey tenses all the muscles on his face. He opens his mouth even wider with his sharp teeth, and his eyes open even wider. The guy holds his hand to his throat. He becomes even more ominous and mercilessly says that he should have just immediately stabbed the main character in the heart. Baikai grabs the baton in both hands and bends down, taking a stance, with an aggressive shout and hostility on his face. He asks who Harvey is and what he is doing here. Baikai says stop and remembers the corpse from the abyss that was lying next to him. He asks in shock, Harvey, is that corpse from the abyss? Is he also reborn? Harvey stands on one leg, leaning back and swaying, maintaining his balance on the ledge, arrogantly telling the main character what a slowpoke he is, that he even feels sorry for the main character, because he was reborn into a level 1 outcast, and Harvey into a level 28 elemental master. Here's Baikai was unlucky. The main character folded his arms and listened to Harvey's arrogant words. In the blink of an eye, a guy with long gray hair appeared behind Baikai and bloodthirsty swung at him. The protagonist's face was filled with horror from surprise and speed. Harvey said that he didn't even want to waste time killing such a player. The guy with gray hair pierced Baikai. The second one screamed and red blood gushed out of him. He opened his mouth wide in pain. The main character received paralysis and lost strength. His health bar was reduced by half. He fell to his knees and grabbed the bleeding wound on his stomach, closing one eye in pain. A painful look was on his face. He cleared his throat and asked why he was wounded. He didn't do anything, Harvey. They were both reborn and should help each other. Harvey's face distorted. He angrily leaned over Baikai, who lowered his head and said, the reincarnated should help each other. Is he kidding? Didn't the system warn that the main enemy of the reincarnated is another reincarnated? Harvey thought that Baikai has by some kind of ability, since he knows the path so well. It turns out that the main character doesn't even know the most basic things. He missed the only chance for rebirth. The main character holds his bloody wound with one hand, and with the other hand he swings a club at the guy with gray hair. Baikai frowns and clenches his teeth, telling Harvey to get out of here. Does he think that the main character will believe his nonsense? The hero swings his club a second time. The guy with gray hair breaks into a sharp, arrogant grin and says that it's not surprising that a level 1 outcast doesn't understand anything. He doesn't want to waste any more time on the main character, but since the hero showed the way, Harvey won't be his kill. Harvey pushed off the ledge and flew upside down, laughing loudly and saying, let Baikai himself fight for his life. If he is lucky enough to survive, then he can take revenge on Harvey. Baikai closed one eye and began to breathe quickly and heavily. He thought about what other secrets the system was hiding from him, to which the system answered him that nothing was being deliberately hidden. Baikai must independently reveal the hidden data. Thanks to special circumstances, he discovered some of the information about the Reborn. The voice of the system said, the system tells that the reincarnated are considered evil heretics, and they are hated by everyone in the world. The reason is unknown to anyone. The reason for the increase in brutal killings among the reincarnated is also unclear. The player Baikai can not only gain soul points and experience, but also blood points. Before Baikai appears the image of two people in a completely iron robe, who fight fiercely with each other. The voice says that people who have found a second life are also called reincarnated, but they may have different classes. The reason is not revealed. The reincarnated randomly turn into creatures of different races, classes, and levels. Low-level reincarnates are easily calculated as strong at first glance In front of the hero, images of different races appear. An image of the Outcast class appears in front of the guy in a warlike pose, and the system says that the Reborn class contains unique information about the world. The exception is the Outcast class, but Outcasts can receive unique information by changing class. Kai jumped down and quickly flies to the bottom. He tisked and said that he was almost dead. So why does he need all this information? The world of Throne of Souls is not so simple. As he fell, he confidently grabbed the ledge with one hand, hung on it, swung on it, and jumped onto another ledge. With a heart-rending cry, he flew to the ledge, but did not fully calculate the trajectory and grabbed it with his hands and hung. Stained with red blood, the thought flashed through the guy's head that he should not let go of this thorn under any circumstances. The guy was pouring sweat and he was breathing heavily and quickly with his mouth open, exhausted, with blood in his mouth. He was trying to figure out what to do, because he finally had a chance to be reborn. He couldn't miss it. He was almost at the bottom, Kai thought hopefully. The guy, covered in blood, rose in his arms, threw his head back and pushed away from the ledge, with the thought that he must endure any pain. This is his last oath. After a strong push from the ledge, he flies to the bottom at high speed, pushing off from the ledges from different sides. He hits each one. Finally, the hero falls to the ground, hitting his head hard. Kai lost some more damage, but remained alive. He sprawled on the ground, spreading out his weakened limbs. His body was covered in sticky blood, but the hero didn't care. He tried to catch his breath, laughing and saying that he had kept his word. There were 10 meters left before the exit. He needed to crawl. With blood in his mouth, the guy opens his eyes wide, on which small blood vessels have already appeared. All the muscles on his face tense. Turning around, the guy says, "Stop this sound and smell." A monster with many heads with a bloodthirsty hunger looks at the main character, drooling. A hidden curiosity has appeared in front of him. It is a beast with curved fangs of level 25. Kai leans on both hands, placing them behind him. He is seized by fear, and he does not understand why there's a monster here. He says there shouldn't be monsters here. The beast with curved fangs had many eyes. All of them were fixed on Kai. The monster opened its mouth wide, intending to eat the hero. Kai was trembling from pain and from his bleeding wound. The hero was crawling away from the monster in horror. The hero thought that he needed to take advantage of his slowness and crawl to the exit as quickly as possible. Suddenly, with a piercing scream, countless balls with a large yellow eye and a wide-toothed mouth and a protruding tongue fly out of the monster. While Kai crawls away, holding one hand at the ready, he is surrounded by hundreds of small balls of monsters. The hero thinks about how the monster accelerated so quickly. This cannot be, and it should not be here at all. It's strange. What's the matter? The protagonist's face is all covered in abrasions and dirt. He opens his eyes in primitive horror and thinks that it's really all him. That it's all Harvey. Did he really lure the monsters here on purpose? The hero thinks, remembering the arrogant Harvey who appeared before the hero earlier. Before he appeared, everything was under control. Apparently, all he can do is die, Kai thought. Sticking out their long tongues from their wide open mouths, the spherical monsters attacked the main character with a piercing scream. They flew at him at full speed while he thought that he should not underestimate such an experienced player like him. The monsters hit the young man and he fell to the ground with a roar. A green substance appeared around him. Kai began to scream loudly because of the pain around the guy. Due to mutations, the river turned into real acid, which can eat away all living things. The hero clenched his teeth tightly. His face is covered in wounds and abrasions. He screams, experiencing mortal pain, but he says that he will not give up so easily, because this is the only way to survive. One spherical monster fell into an acid river and screamed in horror, his eyes wide open in pain. The main character says that his clothes protect him a little from the acid, but for the monster the acid is fatal. The rest of the spherical monsters are not far from their suffering relative. The acidic river flows in a strong stream from above. Kai resolutely crawls up it. Crowds of monsters crowd around. They scream at the hero, who said that he must crawl to the exit at any cost. The guy's hands are in acid mixed with his blood. He clenched his teeth and closed one eye, wincing in pain and loss of strength. Kai says that he finally has a chance to start over. He doesn't want to end up the same as in his previous life. He's had enough. He was born in a poor mountainous area. He thought that if he got into a good city school, he could change his life, so he left home. The hero had a memory of him waving from the car window to one of his relatives. A memory flashes before him of how he, squatting, washes huge mountains of dirty dishes, while his boss shouts at him that he is shirking. asking why there are still so many dirty dishes, telling him to either wash it faster or get out of here. Memories from home, when the guy hero was lying in his room in complete darkness with a flashlight, and doing his homework, and his father was displeasedly shouting at him with the question of what the guy was doing so late. During the day he didn't study, and at night it interfered with his sleep. If his father again sees the light, then Bai Kai will not be happy. Despite the fact that the guy is constantly having a hard time because of work and study, he will never give up because he still has hope. Fortunately, he was accepted into the university of his dreams, but his mother was diagnosed with a serious illness. Bai Kai's world collapsed. All the work was in vain. The hero tried to earn and borrow money, but still he could not save his mother. A memory flashes before his eyes of how he, slouched and bowing his head, sits on a bench in the pouring rain, and thousands of different people with umbrellas. He remembers his work as a courier when he brought an order to an adult man, and he began to be indignant. Why it took so long? He would leave a bad review. The young man made a sincere apology. It was raining heavily outside, so he was delayed. The buyer angrily said that he didn't care if the courier doesn't know how to arrive on time. He has no business delivering. His food is already cold. And now the memory flashes before Bai Kai's eyes, how he lay with his arms outstretched. In his blood, part-time work in streams became his life. Although there was nothing special in streams, his popularity skyrocketed thanks to the game. But being at the very top, he died suddenly. Bai Kai spread his arms, stretched out in the acid river, thinking about the past and present, because death didn't really bother him. But he doesn't want to repeat it. He was reborn into a game that he knows very well. Bai Kai slowly gets up from his knees. His hands are bloody, the corners of his lips are downturned, and he is covered in acid. The monsters looked at him in surprise. He has been unlucky from the very beginning of the game, the hero thought. Without a shadow of a doubt, in complete confidence, he raised his foot and pushed off, shouting that he would never die before becoming the ruler of this world. Bai Kai quickly broke through the crowds of spherical monsters and ran forward as they bloodthirsty flew after him, opening their jaws wide and biting the hero. There is even more blood on the hands of the protagonist. On one hand there is a monster that has tightly grabbed his hand with its sharp teeth. Bai Kai shouts that he must survive. He received even more damage, so his health bar has decreased. He put his hand to the glowing sphere. The voice of the system said that the player Bai Kai successfully left the Cave of Lamentation. He received 1 point. The system asks the guy to make a choice, or open 25% of the items from the previous inventory randomly, and without restrictions on the level of use, or randomly unlock a new account in 25% of inventory, items and skills. The monsters savagely all attacked the hero at once. There was a bright flash of green light and stunned the monsters. Bai Kai chose option 1. 25% of the inventory is open. The player used Holy Blood Essence. This is a divine level item. I wonder what kind of creature is worthy of drinking holy blood. The blood was restored to 100%. Level up plus 30. Bai Kai put on the Bloodthirsty Shadow set. The Bloodthirsty Shadow is a hidden assassin's kit. In the depths of the assassin's soul lies a murderous intent. The Professional Assassin's Kit greatly enhances agility and intelligence. The special effect is the Shadow's Bite. The main character took the Scarlet Deadly Dagger. It is an exquisite, like blood, double blade, is the best weapon for killer. He has high speed and damage. A special combat skill is Scarlet Flame. Gusts of air pierce hundreds of monsters and they die, not understanding what is happening. In the wind, dispersing the dust, a piece of the cloak develops. The young man exclaimed that it was finally the end. Bai Kai put on his majestic attire. Blades appeared in his hands. The hero's level rose to 30. He said that this is what a reborn should look like, and green lightning flashed behind him. With a squeal and a thirst for blood, the monsters attacked Bai Kai at once. He jumped towards them and riddled them in the blink of an eye. The hero's movements were extremely fast and accurate. Only the screams of the monsters could be heard. The hero had no wounds, fatigue or any wounds left. His gaze was serious and confident. Bai Kai connected the weapon into one blade, holding it with both hands. Behind him could be seen monsters cut into several parts. Bai Kai said that it was better to take the inventory from the old account than to risk taking a new profile. Although he took 25%. That's enough for him for now, because these are top-level items. The main character separated the blades, spreading them with a sharp movement in different directions so that all the monsters left behind him became frightened and began to tremble, looking at him. He said that his story was just beginning. The monsters head towards each other, cunningly sticking out their tongues. They come together and unite. With the help of their blood, they become one and turn into a huge monster with 1,000 eyes. With a piercingly angry cry, the huge monster sticks out its tongues, attacking the main character from behind. The monster does not want to retreat. Baikai asks why it is so loud. He knows that the monster is in a hurry, but he should be patient. The system voice suddenly appears and says that the hidden mission has been updated. The hero needs to kill the beast with curved fangs. If he can, he will receive 3 times the soul points. The eyes of the main character lit up with a red flame. He threw his blades into the air. They, in turn, spun in the air and said, "That's better." With a satisfied grin on his face and a sly look, the guy sharply catches the blades with farts and says that he was waiting for this mission. Spreading his blades to the side, he activated a combat skill, a scarlet flame. Everything lit up with an orange flame. A fiery seal appeared above the hero's head. Now both she and his blades were on fire. He says, "Are they ready to turn into flames? Because this is a real fight, it's just beginning." With a cry about the beginning of a real battle, Baikai pushed off and rushed towards the monster with rapid acceleration, the hero's eyes burning with a thirst for victory. The hero's blades shone with a mesmerizing flame. He swung his blades at the monster, shouting for the monster to die. The hero said that he already knows what the monster is going to do. If he is fast enough, he will be able to cope with it. So the hero suddenly moved from the air closer to the ground. The monster in surprise does not understand where the main character has disappeared and screams. The guy thrusts a fiery blade into the monster's body. He mercilessly cuts the monster, flies up and says that the monster will pay for the suffering he caused by Kai. The monster is pierced by excruciating pain. He opens his mouth wide. A monster with curved fangs screams heart-rendingly in pain, splashing its saliva because of the scarlet burn it received. The system voice says that Scarlet Burn, Scarlet Flame debuff. Scarlet Flame causes an explosion. Burn damage will last 15 seconds. Excruciating pain. Debuff caused by the killer's combat skills. Deep Cut causes excruciating pain. The monster is pierced by flames and insane pain. He desperately screams in pain. The main character quickly moves and spreads his hands with flaming blades and flies at the monster. The hero used the shadow absorption skill and made several copies of himself. They all hung over the exploding monster. The voice system says that shadow absorption is the ultimate combat skill of an assassin. The player can create shadow clones that will focus on the target. The clones are immune to all physical and magical attacks for 5 seconds. The monster widened its orange eyes and screamed in horror. Baikai and his copies chasing after him. A flurry of fiery blows fell on the monster. The beast with curved fangs screamed in pain even more strongly and was mercilessly killed. The system said that the hero killed a rare beast. The mission was completed. He receives a double reward in the form of soul points, a total of 18,000 points. The system says that Baikai has received an achievement called, "Sometimes a weak light is stronger than a raging fire." Baikai straightened his arms and landed on his foot. He glowed with orange flames. His level increased by +8. The hero thought that since he increased his level, it was thanks to the fight. He remembered a piece of paper on which he briefly outlined the rules for obtaining soul shackles and increasing the level. The audience took it quite well, but raising the level in this game is quite difficult. The rest told the hero either that they admire him and he is one of the best streamers, or questions about whether he is going to take exams at all and what kind of calculations are on the sheet. The system said that 108 gold coins were received, a dirty crystal vessel 2 pieces, a prayer was received, piercing suffering. A dirty crystal vessel restores 30% of the blood. A prayer piercing suffering creates sharp blades that pierce space. To activate, you need to kneel in a prayer position. Quantity 3 times. The hero opened the panel with his stats, saying that this prayer is a very necessary thing. He has tried to get this skill 30 times already. In this life it appeared after the first attempt. The hero chooses the killer class, so the most important thing for him is the indicator's agility. He just needs a little more agility. He opened all the items and decided to look at them all, looked and said that most of them were potions and other additional items. With annoyance on his face and a tight smile, he thought that this was strange, because he had a lot of cool weapons and professional sets. Apparently he had opened too little of his inventory. In addition to the assassin, he had unlocked 2 more sets. The image of a dragon and a swordsman appeared before the hero. The system said, a set of bloody dragon armor. You need to drink the dragon's blood to get a set. Can be used by those with strength above 80. Heavy armor of the highest class gives stamina that can be controlled by ordinary people. Sword from the dragon's spine. The dragon, whose spine was turned into a sword, knows what true pain is. The indestructible skin can only be pierced by the strongest dragon sword. The system continues, the prophet of the starry sky. Look up and admire. Look down and contemplate the prophecy. The magic set can be equipped by those with intelligence above 100. A beacon of deep space. Even in the darkness of the universe it can light the way for the stars. This is a first-class staff made of golden meteorites. It is ideal in combination with star magic. The hero thought that even though he couldn't use the sets now, other unlocked items would help him survive the first time. Bai Kai walked to the edge of the ravine from where the acid river flowed down and thought whether he should return to save Princess Ming or whether it would be better to leave. As far as he knows, he could have done it just fine on his own. But he knows little about the Reincarnated. He wonders how much the game has changed because of the Reborn. If there are other innovations that could change the original settings. He thought, remembering Harvey. Bai Kai doesn't know much yet, so don't take risks alone. It's better to join the princess. According to the story, the princess's minions will help him in the future. The hero looked seriously, lowered the corners of his lips and thought that even if they deviate from the plan and betray him, he would still gain support for a while. Saying well, go ahead, Bai Kai ran forward through the dark tunnel of the cave. The hero leaves brutally bloody corpses behind him, killing one monster and another and runs on. The guy is attacked with a scream by two muscular monsters with large weapons. Bai Kai drops to one knee, puts his hand on the ground. The hero's eyes glow red and he uses the skill piercing suffering. Immediately piercing the monsters with red spikes, they begin to scream. Bai Kai confidently raised his head and smiled contentedly. He had now officially reached level 10. He clenched his hands into fists and said that he had almost gotten rid of the monsters on the main path. Only the boss remained. The system congratulates the player Bai Kai on successfully completing level 10. Now the guy can check his reputation. He must choose for himself with whom to unite and with whom to quarrel. Bai Kai lowered the corners of his lips and looked intently at the description of the princess and thought about the reputation system. This function was also not in the game. It seems that he should not act alone. There was a strained and distorted smile and annoyance on the hero's face when he thought about his reputation. The hero said that it was interesting what kind words they managed to discuss him with. The hero returns to the team of 4, including the princess, while they discuss how the more they think, the angrier they get. This level 1 rogue is just a fool for deciding to leave them and die alone. One of them says that I heard that all those reborn think only about themselves. Otherwise, why are they wanted everywhere? The creature with a cat's appearance said that death is not such a bad outcome. Meow. The princess with an unshakable and serious look hangs upside down and says that they need to stop discussing these nonsense. Their skills are simply inferior to others, so the main character abandoned them. As the leader of the team, Mina says that she must take responsibility, because she is the one forced them to follow her. The elf broke into a confident smile and said, what is the princess talking about? They swore allegiance to her a long time ago. She does not need to apologize. Chaos calmly said that they are lamenting so much not because of death, but because they don't want to see their dream of rebuilding the country go down the drain because of some stupid outcast. Bai Kai heard their conversation. Approaching them, he threw red discs into the ropes and cut them. The 4, confused and shouting that they must protect the princess, flew off. Chaos covered the princess and protected her so that when she fell, she would not get hit. Dagu landed on his feet, and the elf fell sideways on the ground. The cat-looking man said in frustration, with the corners of his mouth downturned, that he wished he had died. Chaos opened his mouth in surprise, raised his eyebrows and looked at Princess Mina, who opened her eyes in surprise and her cheeks turned pink. Chaos asked if she was okay, to which the girl answered positively. The elf rose in confusion and raised his eyebrows. He said that he did not understand whether they were trying to save them or kill them. Bai Kai walked out to the team of 4, confidently holding his hands in fists. He told them not to be so nervous. He was just taking a little revenge on them for their name-calling. Everyone was shocked. They all turned to the main character and widened their eyes in misunderstanding and surprise. They all said in one voice, this voice. Bai Kai took off his hood with both hands and said, are they surprised? He also said that he will come back to save them. However, the boss will be here in a minute, so they don't have time. Everyone asked loudly in surprise if it was him in front of them. Bai Kai took out a small dagger and cut the rope that entwined the princess's hands. A dissatisfied voice protested what Bai Kai said. Did he really save them from the approaching boss? Was he really going to help them? Princess Mina is stunned by what is happening. She rubbed her wrists after the tight rope. Bai Kai stands behind her, holding his dagger up and listens intently to Mina as she says that whatever his motives, she is grateful, otherwise they would still be hanging there until his death. Bai Kai said that this is not the time for gratitude. In 40 seconds a disaster will begin, so they need to take up arms and run. This will be the best gratitude. Chaos frowned menacingly and shouted at Bai Kai to watch his tone. For such an attitude towards the princess, Chaos could deprive him of his voice, the elf said with displeasure, and at the same time in surprise that wow, the main character was able to rise to level 10 in just half a day. They say, everyone has their skeletons in their closet and he is no exception. Dagu broke into a satisfied grin, saying that the scoundrel Bai Kai is not so bad. He should kill Dagu, otherwise Dagu will kill him. Bai Kai put on his hood and covered it with one hand. His gaze became more confident and mature than before. He realized that his statements had an effect. He tells them that they can at least beat him, but without him they will be too weak to cope with the boss. They have no chance of winning. A menacing voice was heard from one of the four, saying that he would now send the main character home. Mina summoned her weapon and changed her face. She became more serious and collected. She ordered Chaos to stop. Now is not the time for arguing. Everyone get ready for battle, the princess said. Everyone took out their weapons and stood in fighting positions. The princess said that she still had many questions, but she would never miss a glimmer of hope. Everyone answered her positively. Bai Kai broke into a satisfied smile. Immersed in his thoughts, he thought that it was great that Princess Mina had not changed much. The hostility of her guards was caused only by Bai Kai's actions, and not by the fact that he was reincarnated. At least for now that they can team up to fight the boss. The hero swung his hand and threw the spherical thing somewhere forward, saying that there were 10 seconds left. It was a thunder trap. The system explains, a stunning sensation similar to an electric shock spreads throughout the body. It is necessary to absorb the magic thunder runes. When pressed the lightning will stop. Attack. Bai Kai was enveloped in blue lightning. He picked up the blades and prepared for a fierce battle. It flashed in his thoughts that the first part of the battle was beginning. He said to give him 3 minutes and hold on. The team, perplexed, asked what the hell he was going to do for 3 minutes. A huge shadow with horns jumped. The team looked in shock at the unknown creature. The monster landed with all its might, destroying part of the earth so that sand and fragments flew in a deafening wave towards the four. The monster said that the prey should not stick its head out again. The leader of the clan of plague beasts appeared in front of them. A bloody axe, Modic, level 30, he has 8 horns and a long beard, and holds a huge weapon in his hands. The monster fiercely asked where the hero is constantly trying to escape. He will personally roast him. The monster stepped with its paw on the device that Bai Kai had installed. Modic was pierced by thousands of lightning bolts. They stunned him. The monster screamed in pain and lost part of his health. All 4 of them prepared for battle. One of them said that the boss fell into Bai Kai's trap. I wonder how the main character knows about the appearance of the monster. Don't think about it now. You need to focus on the boss. Everyone responded positively. The monster swung at Chaos with all his might, screaming and piercingly laughing that they were a bunch of vegetables that decided to rebel. How are they going to deal with him? The monster hit Chaos, and his health decreased. It flashed in his thoughts that this was a strong blow. Maybe get hurt even if you try to block it. Modic turned his head and opened his red eyes, surprised that 3 small daggers were flying at him. He said that this was childish talk and stretched out his hand to brush off the daggers, when suddenly a vine enveloped his hands. Modic looked menacingly at the 4 and said that if they want to fight normally, then let them show everything they are capable of. Are they teasing him with these useless attacks? Modic took his weapon in both hands and cut all this vine and said, do they think they can stop him? They may not even dream of it. The monster swung his weapon with all his might and mercilessly hit all 4 of them. The guys from the team jumped in different directions. The monster asked, are you hiding? Well, they can run like cowardly rats. Modic smugly said that he was tormenting them, because their screams were the best delight for the ears. A tornado spun around the monster and 4 splashes began to occur. All the stones flew into the 4. Princess Mina put up shields for all her friends. They asked in confusion where Bai Kai had gone. They couldn't avoid the blows. Another one answered him that let him forget about Bai Kai. The princess would soon run out of strength. Mina's face shows fatigue and that she is already at the limit. But the girl asks not to pay attention to her. Just let them try to fight back. Mina extended her hand and a spell circle appeared. Modic looked at the princess menacingly and began to swing at her in a jump, asking that she was the tastiest here, so he would start with her. The princess put a shield in front of her. Her friends shouted at her back to be careful. Chaos in the blink of an eye appeared in front of the princess, protecting her. Modic hits the man with stubble with his weapon. He screams in pain. The princess calls the man with stubble by name. The monster, with his mouth open, raises the weapon behind his head with both hands, saying how pathetic they are. He will see how long they can hold out. Modik laughed. Suddenly the monster's face distorted in pain. Tears appeared in his eyes, and he screamed. Modik lost another part of his health. He turned back and saw another person who crept close to him and thrust 2 blades into the back of the monster. It was Bai Kai. The monster asked who it was and what he did, to which the main character replied that he had just spiced up the monster's head a little. The voice of the system says, acid of the river sticks, bloom, flower from the abyss, the more acid, the longer the effect of the toxin. Bai Kai dodged and jumped high above the monster and put his hand on his head and leaned on it. The monster, after his unsuccessful swing, got even more angry and asked. The main character dares to mock his preferences, but the hero is screwed. A voice was heard asking why Bai Kai is so fast. Is he really that dexterous? Boss Modik felt a terrible pain in his back and lost another part of his health. He turned around in fear and raised his hand back to check what he had there. The monster angrily shouted that it hurt. It was the acid of the river Styx. How does the hero know that it is fatal for plague animals? The monster is stunned in incomprehension while the green acid spreads over its back. Modik got very angry and impulsively swung his weapon and hit the ground several times so that the ground split into several parts and stones flew in all directions. Someone asked, "The boss is starting to lose his temper due to the acid." The words were said that this was their chance. They needed to deal with him. The earth continued to rapidly split into several parts. Someone loudly shouted that there was no need to go there. A huge explosion occurred from the diverging earth, which scattered the terrifying corpses in all directions, which had previously been lying on top of each other, forming a mountain. The boss went crazy, but the battle moved into the second stage. The eyes of the corpses of the skeletons lit up with red lights and they went wild, opening their predatory mouths full of sharp teeth. The transformation of the dead took place. They screamed and squealed, opening their wide mouths wide, exposing their fangs, showing their inhuman nature. Someone shouted questioningly, "The boss is still able to control the dead?" Bai Kai, with excitement on his face, hurried to warn everyone to stop the dead, and he will deal with the boss. Someone indignantly asked, "Is the hero planning to go after the boss alone? Has he decided to die?" The princess showed her people in the team to line up and not miss a single dead man. In one voice the rest said so accurately. The dead men reached out with their hands to the team, climbed towards them and ran. The 4 were ready. Bai Kai walked up to Boss Modik and stood opposite him, straightening his shoulders confidently. The boss said, "Went at him alone. Such a brave newcomer. Modik is used to pain, so let the main character show his trump cards." The main character leaned down and crossed his blades, furrowed his eyebrows, and thought that the boss is recovering very quickly. The acid will last for another minute. According to the plan, Princess Mina will be fine. Unless he dies, we need to finish the fight in a minute. With a smug grin, Modik raised one eyebrow and asked what Bai Kai was thinking about. The monster laughed maliciously, saying that it would be better for the hero to think about how to run away before he turns the hero into mincemeat. The main character used the Scarlet Flame skill. The blades began to emit fire and became bright orange. The hero straightened the crossed blades and raised them behind himself and said that mincemeat is an interesting death. Bai Kai, holding the blades with flames behind him, frowned and boldly rushed straight towards the monster, saying that it was an interesting death for the monster to become minced meat. The main character remembers how easily Modik killed him earlier in the game, and the monster tells him that he is just a sheep that will be mercilessly torn into pieces. Only bones will remain from him. In Bai Kai's memories, Modik lifted the main character by the head and Bai Kai died. Modik says that the hero is like minced meat in the hands of a cook. You can mold him into anything. The boss of the Cave of Lamentation, Modik, is known for his impenetrable skin and rough flesh, and Bai Kai has died at his hands no less than 30 times in the game. The infuriated monster begins to run and swing its weapon, shouting that how dare Food Rebel. The monster makes a punch and hits the ground straight, cutting it. The ground cracks while Bai Kai skillfully dodges the blow. The monster says in shock that this is incredible. The main character frowned. He was concentrated and lost in thought that the monster is quite fast, and the weapon easily deals damage. With his current level of health, the hero will withstand no more than 2 attacks. His agility is quite high, and if he does not get hit, then survives the last 2 minutes and uses poison to deprive the monster of health. Modik begins to swing again. He throws sharp stone blocks at the hero from a turn, saying that the hero was going to kill him. He only knows how to dodge, so confident because of his speed, the monster asks the hero to look him in the eyes, calling him a coward. Bai Kai jumps and gracefully dodges all the boulders while flying. Mina tensely holds the defense and seriously turns around to see how the main character is coping. The girl is amazed how Baikai managed to perfectly evade all the boss's attacks. He perfectly determines the timing of the strike and the attack range when dodging. Baikai does not look like a beginner, such feeling that he is already a professional. The monster is poisoned and gradually loses health, laughing and saying that he sees all the hero's tricks. The hero thinks that if he constantly dodges and uses poison, he will be able to cope with it. Maybe this will help, but just a little. Modik took his weapon in one hand and raised it up. Using his skill, a tornado began to form above, and now the third stage begins. Modik swings wide and makes a sweeping attack, taking the weapon in both hands and telling the hero that he cannot hide from his bloody dance. Baikai did not have time to dodge and flew away, receiving part of the damage. The hero stood up, thinking that in the third stage the attack range increases significantly, which makes it difficult to dodge. Even a light hit can cause damage. The monster bursts into laughter and says that he will now tell him a hero may be clever, but he cannot hide. The main character's eyes narrowed and he frowned, thinking that this was just what he had been waiting for. Chaos and Grey opened their mouths wide and turned around in horror, sensing the strong smell of blood. Chaos says that even if he manages to dodge, he is still doomed. Says that he will leave the dead to Grey and he needs to prepare to meet the boss. Grey answers him. Is he mocking him? He can't cope with the dead alone. Modik raises the weapon above his head with all his might and says that this blow will be the last for the main character. The monster makes a wide swing, but Baikai quickly dodges and disappears from sight. The main character very quickly appears above the monster and uses the Shadow Bite skill. Modik turns around in shock and asks if the hero teleported. How is this even possible? Where did he get such a skill? In the past, seeing such powerful blows, the main character tried to distance himself to avoid the attack. But in the end he died like a coward. Now the key to victory is close combat. Baikai quickly delivers a series of strong blows to the monster's back. In the third stage, the boss's attack speed slows down, so you can use the Shadow Sting to enter a certain radius. Take a couple of hits and then they will see who else will lose. The main character landed on one knee after landing a blow, and cracks appeared along the monster's back. The monster turned his head and screamed in severe pain and asked why the hero always hits him in the back. Modik has a poisonous scarlet burn. Grey opened his eyes wide and asked in surprise why the boss was screaming in pain. Did the kid really manage to turn the fight back? Chaos was also shocked, saying that this stupid guy wanted to die, because he would die if he grabbed a blow from such a distance. Dogu joined the conversation, happily meowing in surprise and asking that he really identified the boss's weakness. He hopes that Baikai will also identify Dogu's weakness. Modik, with a furious cry for Baikai to die, swung at him and hit him. The hero lost some of his health and rolled on the ground. The hero's eyes were bloodthirsty and glowed red. He was serious. Baikai quickly ran towards the monster. The main character dealt a series of quick cutting blows to Modik, who was screaming in severe pain, and landed on his haunches, leaning on one hand. The monster began to swing its weapon chaotically in order to somehow defend itself or cause damage to the young man. Saying that he had enough, he did not think that some kind of minced meat would bring him to such a state. Modik stretched out his hand and began to use the rune. His blood began to boil and he said that he barely managed to get this item, and he was forced to use it against some brat. But now there is no time to complain. Modik used a rune that sucks blood. This is an imitation equipment from deep space. Using the rune, you can absorb blood from the enemy's body to restore your health. Modik said that he would restore his health and tear the main character into pieces. The dead around the boss came to his defense and Modik's scarlet burn and poison statuses disappeared. Is the boss really recovering? A voice was heard. The hero looks with all his eyes at what is happening. He is discouraged because the boss should not have such a skill, and why new settings appear in battle? He thought with annoyance. An insurmountable barrier has been activated around the monster. It is necessary to surround the target with a magical barrier, cutting off its connection with the world and preventing healing. The voice of the system narrates. Modik screams in rage. The effect of the skill is interrupted. Mina grabbed the weapon in both hands and confidently said that there is no need to worry, because this is just an imitation of space equipment. Even her spells will penetrate it. Let everyone forget about the dead and focus on the boss. She called on everyone to fly into the monster. With a fierce cry, Modik raised his weapon and ran towards the princess, shouting that it was all her fault. She ruined his plans. As soon as he killed her right away, the girl stood defenselessly right in front of the monster running towards her. Chaos, Gray and Dagu feel overwhelming horror. Everyone's face contorted in fear. Chaos said that they were late. Dagu raised his hand to his mouth and said princess. Out of nowhere, Baikai jumped out in front of the princess and crossed his bloody blades with Modic's weapon. The girl called the main character by name. She was confused and regret written on her face. She opened her eyes wide. Her cheeks turned pink and she said that she was very sorry. Baikai bent down and extended one hand. The hero was very focused. He said that he shouldn't stand. It was his own fault that he was distracted and put everyone in a dangerous position. The monster begins to rage, looking down on the hero and saying that he is a stubborn sheep. How long is he going to get on his nerves? The boss threatens that he will slam him. Baikai protects the princess who stands tensely behind him. The hero stands in combat readiness with one blade in front of him and he holds the second blade behind him, fearlessly looking at the monster. Forward. This blow will decide everything, Baikai said with all confidence. Modic leaned over and opened his eyes wide, not understanding what was happening. He thinks that something is wrong. The aura of the main character seems very dangerous. The monster has a feeling that the hero's blood is even stronger. The boss turns back and says that today he will spare the hero and runs away as fast as he can. Sensing danger, everyone asks in shock what is happening. The boss runs away. All the dead have fallen and are lying on the ground like ordinary dry corpses. Chaos, Gray and Dagu run up to the princess with an apology that they were late, and she almost got hurt, to which Mina replies that she is fine. The main thing is that everyone is alive, and the rest is not so important. Baikai bent down, holding the blades in both hands, and ran after the monster, saying that this is not all and there is no need to relax yet. The princess turns to him in surprise and tells him to stop, because now it is better to get out of here as soon as possible. The hero tells her dryly that he has his own plans and pushes off strongly from the ground, chasing Modic. Baikai catches up with the boss in the blink of an eye and uses the killing shadow stance skill, appearing behind and in front of the boss in several copies and attacking him. The hero sternly says that the boss must die, after which he unleashes a flurry of quick blows on him and lands on his haunches. The boss screams in severe pain and dies. If we let the boss escape, everything will end sadly, said one of the four. The level increased. Everyone from the team looked at each other questioningly. Mina, Daga, Chaos and Gray were enveloped in flames of different colors. Each of them had an increase in level by +1. Everyone looked at what was happening in amazement. The system tells that the boss Modic was defeated. 320 gold coins and 15,000 soul points were received. The main character raised his head militantly and put his foot on the corpse of the boss he killed. His level increased by +2. The hero thinks that now that the main thing, the test in the Cave of Lamentation, has been passed, then you can catch your breath. The system says that the player Baikai has obtained a bloody dance of fury with an axe. Dance among the bloody storm. A battle axe that can be used with 2 hands. A sharp battle axe soaked in blood and flesh. Wielding it will easily drive you crazy with a unique skill. Also, Baikai received Necromancy. Rather, thank you for a second life, even though you don't look smart. An updated skill book. Proficiency in skills allows you to control the dead below level 30. The system continues to list what the hero received. The last thing is a rune that sucks blood. With such intelligence, you only deserve this imitation. A space device, an imitation. When used, it absorbs the life force of creatures below level 10 and restores your own health. Mina, with a joyful smile, approaches the main character, says, "I'm sorry, she shouldn't have given advice," because the main character was right. "Thank you for saving Mina," she owes him. Baikai smiles slyly and looks at the girl, showing his teeth, and says, if he remembers correctly, then she owes him twice already, but they will deal with this another time. They will talk when they get out. Baikai raised his head, frowned, the corners of his lips drooped down, and he thought that, in general, everything coincides, but there are also contradictions. Maybe the fact is that he is reborn. We need to sort it out as soon as possible. The whole four ran up to the main character. Gray spread his hands questioningly. He said that this is amazing. It's hard to believe that Baikai has changed in such a short time. He has become a completely different person. Dagu crossed his arms on his chest and said, purring, that and this is the whole nature of the hero. Dagu is grateful for the rescue, but now I would like to fight with him. To death. Chaos closed his eyes, put his hand to his heart and bowed in gratitude and said that he was originally hostile to Baikai and said a lot of bad things. He is very ashamed. Chaos sincerely asks for forgiveness. Baikai is a true hero. The system's voice appears out of nowhere and says, "Princess Mina, the reputation of the princess and her retinue, a debt of gratitude. The brave rescue has greatly increased the favor of Princess Mina's retinue. The overall level of trust is now friendly." The main character thought with surprise, asking himself, the reputation has increased, and what is the reward for promotion? While the reputation is high, you need to collect more information. This is the main thing that should be done now. Baikai flashed a confident smile, looked at the team and raised his hand, saying that Baikai is not a hero, but simply a reincarnated one that everyone wants to get rid of. Apparently they don't really care about him either. Mina put her hand on her chest. Her face showed gratitude to the hero and she said that Baikai is really special. Next to him they will really be in danger. It seems that the team has a close connection with the reincarnated. Besides him, someone else helped them. The hero looked at the four in surprise, opened his mouth and asked, "Another strong reborn?" The main character smiled widely. He looked at the princess and convincingly asked if she could tell him more. Since the hero had just been reborn, he wanted to know more, to which the princess only hummed uncertainly. She turned around and looked at the hero with a sly smile and said that it was better not to stay here for long. They would talk along the way. All five of us walked further through the cave, walking through the dry corpses that lay on the ground. One of the guys shouted, "Great, finally they are safe. Even though the boss was killed, there are still a lot of monsters around. You can't relax. There are sharp blocks of stones hanging in the cave." The guys go and Mina says that in order to tell more, it's worth starting with a story about the Reborn in general. Before the hero's eyes, an image of the Reborn appears, about which Mina begins to talk. Those who died and returned to life for unknown reasons are called Reborn. Usually they have unique abilities. They first appeared after the War of the Fallen Star. The Reborn think differently than ordinary people, but most of them are cruel. They break the rules and go it alone. Initially, they did not pay much attention to them, until an ancient prophecy came down. An image of a large gate with a stone statue in the middle appeared in front of the hero, with his arms outstretched to the sides. The general meaning of the prophecy was that the world would collapse and only a few would be able to restore and unite it. Each country considered the awakened to be heretics and refused to accept that the power they received as a result of division would be stolen by some single person. An image flashed before their eyes, a reborn hero, clad in iron armor. But reborn that they were helped by a completely different person. He is strong, but very noble. Mina turned to Baikai and noted with a slight chuckle that they were very similar. The main character tensed. The princess turned away and moved forward with the words that meeting the hero was luck, although her fate was rather depressing. His fate would be even sadder because of worldwide hatred. It's hard to even imagine. The girl turned around and swung sharply and threw a dagger at the main character, saying that it was for him. He deftly caught with one hand a dagger flying towards him from the princess and said this. He took the dagger in both hands, lowered his head and began to carefully examine it. The princess explained that it was a dagger given to the Reborn. The system says, the clouded gaze of the observer. No one is able to contemplate the true appearance of the dark guard. Although it is a dagger, its damage is comparable to a knife. It can hide the true identity of the owner without the use of high-level items. The hero's eyes narrowed. The corners of his lips went down. He frowned, surprised that this dagger had such an effect. He had never seen anything like it. Mina smiled and turned her head to the main character, turned her gaze to him and said that this dagger can hide his identity and reduce the threat. With it he can find the Reborn. He needs this dagger more. Chaos looked at Ming. He opened his eyes wide and asked in shock how she could give away such a cool item. Her identity will now be revealed. And this is dangerous. Gray indignantly supported Chaos. He said that's for sure. This kid helped them, but it's possible if there was some other way to thank him. Mina closed her eyes and smiled, saying that she had thought carefully about her decision and they should not object. The main character carefully took the dagger in one hand and his gaze became thoughtful. He thought, is it really all about increasing his reputation? This dagger will really be useful to him, because he will hide it from high-level reincarnates. Princess Mina is kind as always. The princess turned around and closed her eyes. She broke into a warm smile. The hero thought that her destiny was not to be a queen at all. As the last representative of the Star Kingdom, Princess Mina had to live as a member of the royal family. The image of the queen sitting on her throne and her retinue in front of her appeared before the hero. An image of blue lightning and blue crystals shattering appeared. But a catastrophe occurred when the crystal was broken into 8 fragments, causing the world to undergo great upheaval. Although there were no living beings on the ship of the deep space expedition, unknown genes transferred to the ship led to mutations, and an apocalypse began in the world. An image of planets and ferocious monsters arose that appeared as a result of the apocalypse. To protect the world, the Star Kingdom mobilized its forces and united under the leadership of 8 lords to engage in mortal combat with an army of mutants, a war known as the War of the First Fallen Star. The image of a king pointing his sword at a large dragon appeared. Although they managed to destroy most of the mutant army, the Star Kingdom had exhausted its resources, which, coupled with the deliberate weakening of the 8 lords, led to the fall of the Star Kingdom. So the 8 lords declared independence, and each took a shard of the World Stone. Even though these events took place 100 years ago, Princess Mina is still considered an eyesore. The main character is confronted with the image of the princess sitting on the floor with sharp blades pointed at her. The more pressure was put on the girl, the stronger she became on the path to restoring the kingdom. The image of a team of 4 people and a retinue of loyal knights appeared. Gray, frowning his eyebrows, walked up to Bai Kai and leaned over and asked why he got up. There are corpses of crazy monsters everywhere. The hero killed the monsters before saving Ming's team. Gray grinned and said that Bai Kai could do it. It's good that he is not their enemy. Dagu turned to everyone and pointed his finger at the exit from the tunnel and, purring, said that the exit was there and he had not died again. The princess was delighted and quickly ran. Overtaking the team, she said, "Hurry, they are almost out." Running to the exit, the girl was blinded by a bright golden light and she screamed. She began to squint and cover her face with her hands, trying to hide from the sunlight. Everyone went outside and a beautiful landscape appeared in front of them. There were mountains in front of them. The sun was shining, and somewhere in the distance there were buildings. The girl came closer to the edge of the cliff and leaned towards the sun's rays, straightening her arms and opening her chest. She joyfully said how long it had been since they had seen sunlight. This incredible feeling of freedom, the princess added with pleasure. Chaos looked at the sun, at the sky in disbelief, not believing his eyes. He opened his mouth wide and said that they were free. Gray smiled with all his might and closed his eyes in peace and joy. He said that's for sure, no need to stare anymore into the darkness and breathe the corpse smell. Dagu closed his eyes and grinned contentedly, purring that now he was even glad to be alive. The golden sun was shining brightly. Mina turned to Bai Kai and lightly said that only after imprisonment do you begin to truly appreciate freedom. She asks him to let her thank him again. She will not have enough words. Bai Kai looked at the princess and said that this is nothing, the dagger that she gave was enough. He asked where they were going next. He knows their plans, but just in case, it's better to ask and make sure that nothing has changed. The girl looked thoughtfully at the landscape and said that they had one thing to do. The main character, looking at the girl with interest, asked what this matter was. Gray smiled and grinned, saying that this was an important matter. Chaos thoughtfully folded his hands on his chest and his expression became more relaxed. He said that Gray should not play around. Bai Kai saved them. They have nothing to hide. Mina raised her eyebrows, closed her eyes and smiled shyly, saying that Chaos was right and she was a little embarrassed to talk about it. Mina began to say that they took the mercenaries, but they betrayed them, leaving them with nothing. And they also stole something important from the princess. She must return it. Bai Kai knows that we are talking about the star core. This necklace made from the core of the world crystal, the symbol of the royal family, is one of the most valuable items. The girl cast a frowning glance somewhere ahead. The corners of her lips drooped and the girl said that her weakness and naivety were to blame for everything. She blindly believed in their fairy tales. Chaos, in a rage, hit a pile of stones nearby with his fist, covering his face from guilt. He said that it was not about her, they were simply too weak to protect her. Gray closed his eyes and lowered his head guiltily. He said that their weakness was only part of the problem. These guys disguised themselves, but they didn't notice anything. Dagu pitifully and guiltily lowered his head and said that's for sure, he didn't even smell any strange smell. He thinks it will be difficult to find them. The princess looks down with regret on her face. The corners of her lips are lowered, and her eyes are slightly narrowed, and the girl says that she must find them. She will get them from the end of the world. The hero's cloak fluttered in the wind and Bai Kai put his hand on his belt and confidently with a glance he said that there was no need to go that far. He knew where the mercenaries were. The hero asked if they believed him. Everyone on the team was stunned and everyone in one voice loudly asked what. House asked how he knew where they were, how he knew it. He told him not to joke about it. Gray told Bai Kai not to joke, because this is very important to them. Dagu said that this is hard to believe. Mina remained silent. Bai Kai said that he was not joking. He asked if he had lied to them even from the very beginning to this day. House said that this was indeed true, and although the process was full of twists and turns, he never deceived them. Gray asked if he meant that the thing they were going to spend a lot of effort on could be done easily. Mina said that they were still sorry for doubting him. Having the heavy stone on their hearts, getting moved so easily does feel somewhat unreal. She said she had prepared for the worst. Placing his hands on her shoulders, the protagonist told her not to worry about it, because although he could not tell them the reason, he was sure of the location of the group of mercenaries who harmed them. He said just follow him. Blushing slightly, Mina smiled and said that she believed him. House told him to watch his words and that touching the princess was rude. Gray told him not to interfere, because the princess had not said anything against it. Burnt jungle, 10 minutes 20. The perennial geothermal heat burns through this jungle, yet it hasn't incinerated life here entirely, but instead maintains a relatively balanced ecosystem. If you don't like the cold and dampness of the north, then the warm burnt jungle can definitely be one of your alternative settlement options. Just don't get bitten by those fire spiders. The red lizard was chasing a small black furry creature. The monster closed its jaws and blood sprayed in all directions. Opening its eyes, it raised its head. The red lizard was roasting over a fire. Someone cursed and said that this burnt jungle is not suitable for people because it is terribly hot here. Someone said that this fried lizard is very tasty. Mercenary group, League of Justice, number around 30 people. Level 20 minutes 30. Someone among the tents asked what a little hardship meant compared to the profit they made. Someone else, agreeing, said that they owed those fools for being so easy to deceive and for revealing their identity so easily. Maxell, a level 28 human warrior, said that he couldn't understand why they needed to stay in this burnt jungle when he couldn't wait to enter the city and spend money like water. Kira, a level 27 human swordsman, said that the boss told them he had his reasons, but didn't say why, so they could only wait. He said that, in any case, the money they received would not fly away from them on its own. Yuri, deputy commander of mercenaries, level 29 human mage, asked the boss how long they needed to stay in this place. He said that although he specializes in fire magic, he doesn't like the heat. Hades, leader of the League of Justice mercenary group level 30, silently looked at the medallion in his hand. Yuri said displeasedly that he was daydreaming again, and since he received this necklace, the boss has been constantly looking at him with a blank stare. He asked what kind of necklace it was. Hades, clutching the necklace in his hand, asked why he was shouting, because he was not deaf. He said that the reason they defended here for so many days was in case of a mishap. He asked what if this woman escaped from the Howling Cave. He said he was starting to regret not killing them that time. Maxell said that he was too careful, because with the abilities of those people, there was absolutely no way they could survive in Howling Cave. Kira, agreeing, said that he was ready to see that those people had already become excrement of the Plague Beast tribe. Yuri, clicking his tongue in displeasure, said that that woman rejected the boss's kindness, and her road to recovery would be easy with them. He said trying to rebuild the country is short-sighted. They remembered how the bound Mina said that they, members of the League of Justice, were evil. She asked why they betrayed her so much when she trusted them so much. Hades said that justice and evil do not contradict them, because everything depends on the reward they receive. He said that the criteria of their court are very flexible, and this is not a betrayal, but their help to her. Moving closer to her face, he asked that she wanted to restore the country. He said that with their help, she would have to work much less hard for many years. He told her to give him her legendary necklace and become his woman. Nina said that if she falls into their hands, they can do whatever they want. She told them not to even think about the necklace, because she would not give it to them even if she died. Snapping his fingers, Hades said that she is a very stubborn woman. He asked since she didn't value her own life, what about the lives of her subordinates? He said that although they were a bunch of useless trash, their loyalty was commendable. House and Gray were on their knees, surrounded by armed men. Hades asked if she could watch them being killed right in front of her. Mina, head down, trembling, gritting her teeth. Hades, holding the necklace, said that stupid people do not deserve to live in this world, especially the incompetent princess, whose abilities do not match her ambitions. He told the guard one more night, and tomorrow morning they would visit the nearby Anka village. The guys exclaimed that their boss was wise. Maxell asked if they were finally leaving this place. He said it was the perfect time to get some fresh blood because he was tired of women in the group. Leaving with the woman on his shoulder, he said that he was full and it was time to stretch his muscles. The girl demanded to be released. Kira said that he really can stop to rest because he is constantly eating, sleeping, fighting or playing with women. He said he has endless energy. He asked his boss what he planned to do with the necklace. He said that it was definitely priceless and he would not carry it around with him just like that. He said that he thought the best decision was to sell it to a nearby country. Kira said that all 8 countries were looking for this woman, most likely for the necklace, and if done right, they could rest easy for the rest of their lives. But if not, it would bring disaster upon them. Having thrust his blade into the creatures running past, Hades said that it was true. Throwing the creature behind him, he said, who would have thought that an escort mission would accidentally bring them so much money? He said that they should maximize the benefits, and he thought about exchanging with a country, but the closest country to them is Aelina Duchy. He said that everyone in this country, from the queen to the nobles, smells of poverty and is full of heirists. He said it was better to sell it directly to Hades earldom than to them, because they had much more money. Hades said that he had heard that Hades and Wembach were about to get into a small war on the border. He asked if they had enough time to deal with them right now. Hades earldom, rank Earl, Knight, Commoner, features symbolized by a lion's head emblem, rich in mountains, excellent blacksmiths and a powerful army. Wembach earldom, rank Earl, Knight, Commoner, features symbolized by a bear claw and axe emblem, dense forests, and hunting grounds, excellent hunters and carpenters. Aelina Duchy, rank Queen, Nobles, Commoner, features symbolized by a rose emblem, fertile farmland and flower gardens, excellent painters and literates. Hades said that they underestimated the influence of this necklace, and the essence of war is profit. He said that this has not changed even in such chaotic times, and this legendary gem, inherited by the royal family, has the power to change the world. He said that the price of this gem could be said to be 10 times more than the profits from all the wars combined. Yuri asked why don't they stop him from using his power to create a country of fun for the sake of it. Hades said that he thought about it too, but after he studied it today, it feels like an ordinary gem in his hands, and he doesn't feel any power from it. Rising to his feet, he said to forget about it, because if they wanted to live a long life, it was better not to take away power that they could not control. As he left, he said that they were not like those lunatics from the martyr sect who used their flesh and blood in exchange for power. He said that in his limited life, it is more important to make more money and live a happier life than others. Yuri, agreeing with him, asked how he knew so many secrets. Hades turned around and said that this did not concern him. He said to tell the brothers to rest, because tomorrow they will go to Anka village. Walking among the corpses, Mina said that she cannot believe that these animals are still wandering around this burnt jungle, and she is quite cautious, because if Baikai had not killed them beforehand and they had met them directly, this would have happened. The whole camp already knew. Crouching down, she said that they had an advantage in levels and numbers. She asked how they could get the necklace back in such a situation. House said that although he wants to rush into the enemy camp to take it back, in a completely disadvantageous situation, to behave boldly and fearlessly is tantamount to suicide. Gato said that he would go and distract most of them while they took this opportunity to attack the leader of the group. Gray asked how he was going to distract them. He asked if he was going to do cute eyes. He said he thought it would be safer to sneak in quietly at midnight. The main character said that they cannot wait for the night, because they have a maximum of 3 hours left, because when they discover the corpses during the patrol, the entire camp will be on alert, because this leader of this group of mercenaries is very careful. Vina said that he is really difficult to deal with because he is not only skilled in acting, but also extremely smart, and it seems like they can only give up temporarily and wait for another opportunity. Baikai said that there is still a chance. House asked that he had another idea. He said to tell them quickly. The main character said with a smile that their biggest disadvantage is quantity, and he just has a way to compensate for this difference in quantity. He said that deep in the burnt jungle there is a nest of fire spiders. Although their levels are around 10 or 20, their number is simply enormous. He said that his plan is this. First they need to go into the monster's nest, ensuring their own safety, and try to lure as many monsters out as possible. Then take them to the mercenary camp and transfer the aggro of the monsters onto the mercenaries. Someone objected that, even if there are a lot of ordinary monsters, it's hard to make them suffer heavy casualties. After all, their levels are not low. The main character, agreeing, said that the role of ordinary monsters would be to create an unexpected house. He said that the key to the plan's success depended on whether he could lure the fire spider boss to the mercenaries' camp. They asked in shock that he wanted to lure out the boss alone. Gray told the main character that his plan is very interesting, but it's not easy to carry it out, because it's impossible for everyone to go into stealth and leave combat. House said that among them, only the princess and the cat can use invisibility spells. Dogu asked how many times he needs to tell them that he is not a cat, but a tiger. Mina, folding her arms across her chest, said that her invisibility spell could only be used individually, and could not be used on a group. She said that once she and Dagu become invisible, the monster's anger will fall on House and Gray, and this is very dangerous. House said not to worry about him, because if they can get the necklace back, this level of danger is not a problem. He told Dagu that if he died, he should take care of the princess. Dagu said that invisibility is impossible, and he is going head first. He said that if he could end up covered in spiders and die a horrible death, he could at least enjoy it. The protagonist told them not to worry, because if they strictly followed his plan, no one would die. Throwing a few items at them, he said that he was giving them the items. Shadow of Solitude. Drinking the water from the Shadow River can temporarily grant invisibility, although there's no class restriction, but the side effects are unknown. Whisper of the Divine. Deep Space Original Artifact. A product of native technology from the Deep Space Pioneer ship, allows free communication within a range of 1,000 meters. If special conditions are met, communication can be conducted regardless of space and distance. Frost Grenade. Magic Mechanism. Remove the trigger and throw it at enemies to launch a freezing attack that slows down enemies within a certain range. Note that this magic mechanism will cause indiscriminate attacks. Please use with caution. House exclaimed in shock that he was giving them so many rare items. Gray asked if it seemed to him that there really was a deep space original artifact here. He asked about everyone getting one and if he knew how much they cost. Dagu asked where he found all this, whether he was the illegitimate child of a king in a previous life. Closing his eyes, Baikai thought, of course, by constant grinding, and the deep space items unlocked this time are just barely enough. He thought that they still needed to accumulate more account unlocking points. He said that how he obtained them is not important. What is important is that with these items his plan can move forward smoothly. Mina said that he easily respects their secrets, but, probably, even the current kings will not be able to give away so many deep space items. She said that deep space original artifacts are incredibly rare, and are used exclusively by royalty, and royalty even considers them as the highest reward to grant nobles and knights who have made significant contributions. She said that, although the emergence of the Deep Space Observer Academy has popularized replicated deep space items, their inferior functions have actually highlighted the value of the original ones. And even within the 8 countries there's a religious cult that worships the original deep space artifacts, with no shortage of nobles among them. Mina said, speaking of the Deep Space Observer Academy, it's an independent research institute separate from the 8 countries. They convert the results of reverse engineering into military power and sell it to the highest bidding countries, and their research results have advanced technological progress in the human world while making humans more violent. She said that in the meantime, original deep space artifacts are highly sought after on the black market and can fetch incredible amounts of money. The protagonist asked if she used her ancestral items to buy mercenaries on the black market only to lose both all her money and the ancestral necklace. Mina asked how he knew this. Vaikai said that he guessed right. He thought that he knew everything about her. Turning around, he said with a smile not to worry, because he promises that they will return everything. Confused, Mina thanked him and thought why his words always reassure her, and she feels some kind of fluttering feeling. She wondered what she was thinking about, because now was not the time to think about something like that. The dialogue box says, Main quest updated, help Princess Mina retrieve the Star Core. Mission reward, new account unlocking points. The main character thought that his wish had come true. He mentally asked the system what other ways there were to get more new account unlocking rewards. The system responded, currently, there are 3 ways: complete designated tasks, defeat regressors, accumulate soul points for redemption. While putting on his hood, the main character thought that it seemed like the ways to get them weren't too difficult, and after he helped Mina get the Star Core back, he would focus on getting more points. He thought that there was only one inaccurate factor in this plan that needed to be confirmed through an actual battle, and there was no place to retreat now. Vaikai told everyone to prepare because there is a spider monster's nest ahead. Put on their communicators to always stay in touch, and follow the plan. The others obeyed, following behind him. Red fire spider nest. The trees were littered with spider eggs glowing orange. Opposite each other stood 2 level 5 red fire spider hatchlings. A steel boot crushed one of them. House, laughing, said that it was very pleasant to press them. Gray, agreeing, said that the pressure that had been building up on them was finally released. He told the princess that she should try too. Using magic, Mina told them to stop having fun because they didn't have time. She said that according to Baikai's plan, they have enough spider eggs to anger the boss. House, while cutting the spider eggs with his sword, asked if destroying the spider eggs could really anger it, and if Baikai could really predict anything. Gray, destroying the lightning eggs, told him not to guess in vain, because if they don't have a better plan, they should unconditionally trust Bai Kai. Dago agreed while shooting his bow. An adult level 18 red fire spider appeared in front of them and they exclaimed that Bai Kai was right again. Mina ordered a retreat. She said that according to the plan, they should not use the items that Bai Kai gave them until they got close to the mercenary camp. The spider's eyes flashed red. Area boss, level 30 red fire widow, howled about his children. The main character asked if it felt that its eggs were destroyed. As he approached the monster, he said that this meant that the princess and her team had successfully completed their part of the plan. Taking a fighting stance with 2 daggers in his hands, he said that now it was his turn. The monster kicked the ground powerfully. He asked if he was looking for death since he dared to challenge him. The main character asked with a grin if it wanted to know his purpose. Striking the monster's leg with his daggers, he told him to defeat him with that speed and courage, and then he would tell. A woman with red hair, covered in cobwebs, said that he was not an ordinary person. Taking his face in her hands, she said that she loves strong men. She asked, since her eggs were destroyed, why not stay and join her in conceiving, because then they could make even more children. Bai Kai asked if she was talking about that thing where she injects neurotoxins into him, why he would be absorbed into her in a state of incredible arousal. After cutting off her head, he said that he was not interested in being her breeding farm. The web shot out in all directions. The monster, shooting green projectiles, said that his death was inevitable, and since he did not choose a more painful death instead of a more pleasant one, so be it. Dodging between the trees, the main character thought that the boss's anger had reached its maximum. Stumps remained from the trees, and he thought that his goal was not a battle. He thought that the key to victory was whether he could lure the boss out of his territory. The monster was right above his head. The monster disappeared, leaving a huge web above its head. The ground was covered with cracks, and Bai Kai thought that in the original game the boss's territorial consciousness was strong. No matter how much you provoke it, it will never leave its territory. Having landed, the monster asked where his previous momentum had gone, why he was only thinking about victory, and was he really afraid of his dominance. The main character thought that he had already lured it to the edge of its territory. He wondered if it would behave differently now. Turning around, the monster said that it was boring and he had no interest in weak men. Bai Kai thought that after all, everything is not so simple, and if anger does not lure him out, then he needs to try something more tempting. Stopping the monster, pointing his finger at it, he asked what it wanted to know about its purpose. He said that he was here on the orders of their captain to collect his silk, because his silk is an excellent material for equipment. He added that there were 30 more people, even more robust than him, in a camp nearby. He asked if he thought he was afraid of him. The monster turned around and said about 30 robust males. Hissing, the monster ran in pursuit and, hissing, said that it was getting excited, because if it could drain 30 strong men, she could make a lot of children again. It said to take it there, otherwise it would kill him right now. While running away, the main character thought that his thought was correct, and this world does follow the original setting on the surface, but this is not completely true. Grinning, he thought that he could rely on his understanding of the game and creative thinking to do things that were previously impossible in the game. He wondered if this was the real way to play in this world, and it was becoming more and more interesting. A huge crowd of level 20 red fire spiders were running through the forest. House asked how Bai Kai came up with this battle strategy. He said he was a genius. Mina, turning around, told them not to be distracted, because the mercenary camp was not that far away. And according to Bai Kai's plan, they should get close to the border of the camp and become invisible in order to transfer the aggro of the spiders to the mercenaries. She said that the key to a successful operation was to split into 4 groups to surround the mercenary camp on all sides, leaving them with no escape route. She said that this would not have been possible without the Bai Kai items. Frowning, she said that they must work in perfect harmony, and they might waste the Bai Kai items. Mina ordered them to split up, and each of them took part of the spiders with them. Someone, showing 2 corpses of guys in armor, said that they found it during a shift change, and these 2 were killed quietly. Cursing, he asked who dared to deal with their people, and who was so brave. He asked if it was possible that it was some kind of animal, since they had already scouted the place and there was no one here. Hades said that this wound was not caused by the beast, but by someone cutting their throat with a sharp dagger. The guy asked if that woman's group were not dead, but were seeking revenge against them. Frowning, Hades said, judging by the level of weaponry and the clean execution, there is no one on that woman's team that is so capable. He wondered who it could be if not them. The wounded man said he had bad news and their camp was attacked. He said that a large group of spider monsters were attacking from all sides and others couldn't get through, and luckily he was patrolling the borders of the camp, so he was able to escape and report. He said that the most important thing was that he saw that woman, but she immediately disappeared. Hades, exclaiming in amazement, wondered if this woman had really escaped. Thinking it was impossible, he wondered what was going on. The mercenary camp was engulfed in flames, and the mercenaries were shouting that there were too many spiders here for them to kill them all. Someone else shouted that they had nowhere to run, because they were running from all sides. A guy with blonde hair, lying on the ground, surrounded by spiders, called for help and shouted that he did not want to die. Having lifted him to his feet, the huge spider bit off his head. Maxwell, fighting the spiders, shouted that before he had time to put on his pants, they came under attack. He asked what was wrong with these spiders. Kira asked if intelligence didn't say that their nest was far away from them, and why they were attacking them. Yuri cursed and said that he didn't know. He asked where the boss was, because if this continues, they will not be able to hold out, because there are too many of them. Hades smashed the monster into pieces with his fists, and they exclaimed that the boss had returned and they were saved. Yuri told him to lead them in a counterattack against these spiders. Kira said to kill them. Hades told them to forget about it, because they've been set up, and these spiders were deliberately lured to this camp. He told them to take all the money and run because they had no chance of winning. Kira asked what about the brothers. Hades shouted that they were here to take the damage in a critical situation, and if necessary, there were plenty of people with money. Running after him, they exclaimed that the boss, as always, was decisive and cool-headed. Red Widow boss lifted carts of gold into the air. The mercenaries looked in shock at the gold coins falling from above. The monster said that that guy was right, and there are a lot of strong men here with whom it can make a lot of eggs. Enveloping people in a web, the monster said that it would turn everyone into its nourishment. The green liquid hit Yuri, who was covered in webs. Hades dodged the attacks, and the monster said that he was the same captain that guy talked about who sent someone to collect his silk. It asked that now it is here in person, but all he does is run away. Hades thought, is he really a mastermind? But why should he harm them? He wondered if he was with the princess's team. He thought that if the princess knew someone so powerful, she wouldn't need help from them. Yuri grabbed his leg. Paralyzed, he asked for help and said that he did not want to die. Hades picked him up by the hand and Yuri thanked him for not leaving him. Hades at the same moment threw it towards the huge spider. He was immediately torn to pieces, and Hades, as he ran away, thought, not knowing what others were capable of, he could not fight, only run away. As he ran among the mercenaries fighting the spiders, he thought that with the crowd as cover, plus his speed, he could escape on his own, even though he had all that money to spare. Finding himself deep in the forest, he mentally cursed. He thought that his painstakingly built team was destroyed, but at least he still had the necklace and he could make a comeback with it. He saw Mina standing among the trees. Hades thought that this was the same woman. He wondered if she really did all this, and if she really escaped from Howling Cave. He thought that this time he would definitely not let her escape. Swinging his blade, he shouted at her to die, but Mina, who turned out to be an illusion, disappeared into thin air. Hades exclaimed in shock that this was a deep space artifact, but this was impossible. He asked where this woman could have such a top-tier artifact. Once behind him, the main character, putting a dagger to his throat, said that there were still many things that he did not understand. Turning around, Hades swung his blade. Noticing the dagger and the main character, he exclaimed that he was the mastermind behind it all. He asked if he did all this just to steal the necklace. Laughing, he said that he was too careful, and he couldn't imagine that mastermind would turn out to be a level 10 stealth assassin. He said that he admits that his plan was almost successful, but by appearing before him to take the necklace away openly, he wasted all his scheming. Jumping into the attack, Hades asked, can he beat him going head to head? He swung his blade, cutting through the trees, and the main character did a somersault in the air. He landed behind him, and Hades wondered if he was really only level 10 with such speed and agility. Beckoning him with his hand, the main character asked if it was possible that all this was in order to eventually fight him one-on-one. He said to start and see who can last longer. Hades asked that he wanted to kill him. He said that he had already missed his chance. He asked if he hadn't tried to stab him in the back earlier to mortally wound him. Baikai said that his Elemental Ranger's passive trait gives him immunity to backstabs, and if he attacked recklessly, he would be stunned and at a disadvantage. Flames engulfed his fists, and Hades said that he looked knowledgeable for someone of his level, but he still overestimated him, the mastermind that made him look so pathetic. Gritting his teeth, he jumped into the attack and said that he would give him a painful death. Hitting with yellow energy, he shouted that he wanted to make up for his regrets. Hitting with energy once again, Hades shouted that dodging was useless, and if he knew so much, then he should understand that elemental rangers are the nemesis of stealth assassins. Having made a somersault, the main character thought that it was true. Stealth assassins can't gain an advantage over elemental rangers with invisibility, backstabbing, or speed. Hades, cutting down the trees around him, shouted that the outcome of this duel was a foregone conclusion as soon as he revealed himself. Baikai thought that class-based restraints could be compensated by combat experience, so they were not necessarily the key to victory. As he ran past Hades, he thought with a smile that the real determining factor was skill. Turning around, Hades said with a smirk that despite his combo attacks, he was still able to successfully counterattack and his combat experience exceeded his expectations. He said that with such a staggering difference in skill level, combat experience was meaningless. Glowing wings appeared behind him and the main character thought that he had a base level of 10 and a peak level of 30, in which the peak level only affects attributes and not skills, so his class skills are at level 10. While he has full Elemental Ranger level 30 advanced skill, Elemental Sacred Hunter, which arms itself with elemental forces to enhance attack and defense. Hades said he has the skills, but it all ends here. Hitting with his fists, he shouted that he would kill him and then the woman. Flapping his wing, he told him to die. The tattered red cloak fluttered in the wind, and the main character said no. He said that if he dared to fight him one-on-one, then he would definitely have a way to defeat him. Hades, laughing, asked what he was going to do to defeat him. Holding the purple stone in his hand, Baikai said that of course he was going to cheat. Class Crest, consumable. Unlocks level 50 class skills, lasting 3 minutes. Shrouded in purple energy, he used Shadow Assassination Formation and said since skills are the key, he would use level 50 skills to destroy him. Shadow Assassination Formation. Stealth Assassin level 50 class skill uses a blade to cut through spatial rifts, summoning shadow demons from the Shadow Realm to aid in battle. Hades asked with a wide smile what kind of illusion this is. He said he has strange tricks, but once he kills him, they will all belong to him. The force of their impact pushed back the air around them. Red and yellow energy flashed. Hades, falling, thought how this was possible. He thought that this was not an illusion. Gritting his teeth, he thought that it truly has the terrifying oppression of level 50 skill, and if he doesn't escape, he will die. Many purple hands were chasing him, and he wondered why he had such high-level items. With his mouth wide open, Hades turned around. Purple hands pinned him to the ground. The main character, standing over him, asked why he was running away, because he wanted to make his death painful. Hades asked why he didn't use such powerful items from the beginning if he had them. Breathing heavily, he asked if he had been toying with him from the beginning, pretending to be weak, only to destroy him at the very end. He asked why he was going to such lengths since he had nothing against him who he really was. Baikai, surrounded by purple energy, said with a grin that he was smart, but his mind led him the wrong way. Hades shouted that he was wrong. He asked if the necklace was his target. He said he shouldn't have targeted him. He asked to be spared. Baikai, jumping forward, said that he preferred his arrogant behavior earlier, but he wants both the necklace and his life. Dark energy surrounded the red magic circle. The cloud of smoke gradually dissipated. Hades, coughing, asked why not just kill him and how much longer he should play with him. Picking up the necklace from the ground, the protagonist said that if it were his enemy, he would already be dead. But he spared his life because of a promise he made to someone else. The system reported that the side quest was completed. Baikai received 8,000 soul points, 3 account unlock points. Throwing the necklace, he said that he did what he had to do and now it was her turn. Nina caught the amulet and he said before the boss comes, if she has any questions, ask them quickly. Nina, approaching Hades, asked why he didn't kill them directly, but threw them into Howling Cave. She said that she wanted to know the reason why he did this. Hades asked what she hoped for, and if she hoped that he would say that it was because of a piece of kindness in his soul, hoping that she would spare his life. He told her not to say anything stupid, because he just wanted their deaths to be painful. He said that he deeply regretted that he did not kill them in the beginning, which gave them a chance to fight back. He said that this is his destiny and he accepts it. The main character thought that he was stubborn even on his deathbed, and not only his fate was at stake. He thought that the reason he didn't kill him was because he was gambling on the princess's luck, and if he had chosen not to save her, she would have escaped Howling Cave, and he would have truly pledged allegiance to the princess to help her reclaim her kingdom. He thought that he only considers his own interests, and does not care whether it affects others. He thought they couldn't blame him. This world was just so cruel. House raised his sword, and Hades said that their fate is much worse than his, because they are against the whole world. House, striking the ground with his sword, shouted to him to be silent. A huge spider, enveloping Hades in a web, said that he belongs to it. Hades, laughing, said that he would rather be sucked dry by his boss than die at their hands, and he would not give them the opportunity to kill him. He said they would die together. The monster told the main character that it had finally found him. It said that the camp he had led it to had been destroyed and now only he remained. It said if it caught it, it could return to the nest and enjoy it in peace. The main character told the others to step back because he could handle this boss himself. He thought that he had used the only class crest he had and he had less than a minute left, so he needed to get this over with as soon as possible. The others stood next to him and said that he had already done so much for them and they couldn't let him fight alone. Moreover, hiding and living in fear was not their style. The monster asked if he was trying to resist. It said that it would kidnap him and kill the woman. A loud sound sounded and everyone covered their ears with their hands. The monster asked who it is who dares to growl above his head. A huge black foot stepped on the spider. The main character wondered in amazement why there was an ancient dragon here. In front of them, with its mouth wide open, stood an ancient Daijin black dragon of an unknown level. The monster stood with both feet on the spider. They asked how it was possible that the legendary ancient dragon suddenly appeared. They asked whether they should fight or flee. Raising his palm, Baikai told everyone to stand still and absolutely not make any sudden movements. He thought that this was another deviation from the original script, and he urgently needed to find a solution. The spider asked what kind of fool he was, because it had never seen him. It said that it not only dared to step on his territory, but also dared to step on his head. The dragon raised his leg and the spider asked if he was scared. He said he would suck it dry. The dragon took the spider into its mouth. He clenched his jaws, tearing the spider into pieces. The main character thought that in the original game there was racial recognition between wild species, ignoring level and racial differences. It's just pure aggression. He thought that fortunately, the delay caused by the red fire spider gave him enough time to calm down and remember the information about this black dragon. Looking at the monster, he thought that its real name should be Guardian Dragon Daijin Black. Baikai thought that he was originally one of the 3 dragons guarding the soul of the world. In addition to the male black dragon, there were also red and blue female dragons, all powerful creatures of the legendary level. Since the world's soul was shattered and the kingdom fell, Daijin Black was last seen during the first Falling Star War, that completely vanished without a trace. Baikai thought that although he knows its location and have faced this hidden boss countless times after reaching max level, to encounter it now it's definitely a certain death. Someone shouted that the dragon was going to breathe fire, and they were finished, they couldn't do anything. The main character asked the dragon not to kill them because they are not his enemies. The dragon turned around sharply. He closed his mouth. Gray asked what was going on. House said that Baikai said something that he couldn't understand, and then the ancient dragon stopped breathing fire. Mina said it was the language of dragons. Daijin Black asked how he, such a small man, knew the dragon language. He said that in their short and ugly history, there were less than 10 people who could speak the language of dragons. The main character said that he not only knows the dragon language, but also knows his noble hidden personality. Baikai used skill book, Dragon Whisper. Using the skill book allows you to learn dragon language. Although there's no intelligence attribute restriction, it requires a high level of emotional intelligence, because saying one wrong word could turn you into flying charcoal. Kneeling down, he said that he welcomed him and offered his respect to him, guardian of the world's soul, witness to rules and laws, most honored partner of the Starshine royalty, representative of power and flame, the Black Star, Guardian Dragon Daijin Black. The dragon asked how he knew all these titles. He told him to explain who he really was, otherwise he would disappear without a trace. He told him not to think that a few words of praise could deceive him, because people represent weakness and cunning, so he would never trust a person again. Noticing his wounds, the protagonist wondered if this might be the reason for his rage and irritation. He thought that in the original game, Daijin Black didn't harm people. He wondered if this series of unexpected events was connected to the Regressor. Opening his mouth, in which the flame glowed, the dragon told him to speak. Baikai asked him not to be angry, because he would not dare to deceive him. Pointing at Mina, he said that the reason he knows all these things is because he serves the last descendant of the Starshine royalty, who have a deep connection with him. He said that this was Princess Mina, the last bloodline of the Starshine royalty. Mina thought with a nervous smile that although she doesn't know what Baikai is planning, she must hold on and her aura must not falter. The protagonist said that according to his contract with Starshine royalty, not only is he obligated not to harm her, but he is also obligated to protect her. The dragon, laughing, asked that he dare threaten him. He said that he protects the soul of the world, maintains the balance of the world, but does not coddle people. He said that the Starshine royalty contract was just a diversion in his long life, and when the kingdom fell, so did the contract. Stomping his foot, he said that he pulled someone out of nowhere, saying that they were the last of the royalty. Opening his mouth, the dragon said that he had lost patience, but he would give him one last chance. He told him to prove it, or he would die. Picking up the necklace, the protagonist told him to look at it. He said that this star core could only be in the hands of a member of the royal family. The flame in the dragon's mouth glowed brightly, and the protagonist said that this was enough proof. The dragon shot out a stream of flames, and Baikai, grabbing Mina, jumped to the side. Using his dragon's breath, he shot out a stream of flames. He said that a mortal dared to touch the star's core, and he must die no matter who he was. The main character said that he was attacked before he finished speaking, and he is breaking the rules by being a witness to the rules and order. Standing in the magical barrier, he said that he had completely lost his honor as a guardian and had fallen into darkness. He thought that although his life had been saved, he had wasted 2 precious deep space items. Opening his mouth, the dragon said that he saw this item that could withstand his dragon breath during the Starfall War, but this thing can withstand it once, but definitely not twice. Frowning, Baikai thought how he could break this deadlock. He thought that the chances of victory were too low, and even if he unlocked 25% of the item library again, items that could deal with the ancient dragon were incredibly rare. He thought that the previously unlocked Blood Dragon set and Dragonbone sword can save his life, but his strength attribute is far too low to wield them. He wondered what he should do, and whether he had only one way out. Approaching Mina, the main character said that he had only one way to get out of this situation, but this method would cause her great harm and pain. Mina told him to do what he needed to do, and if they could survive, she could withstand any pain. Baikai, having made her lose consciousness, thought that this method would definitely allow them to survive, but it will have to trouble her. House looked at him in amazement. The main character said that they must not let her know a word about what will happen now. He raised his dagger to Mina and they asked what he was going to do. As he plunged the dagger into her chest, he thought that he would use the most precise technique to minimize her pain. His dagger stopped millimeters from her heart. Baikai took out the dagger from her chest. He dripped blood from the dagger onto the necklace. Shooting flames, the dragon said that their death was near. There was a strong explosion of flame. The man in armor blocked the flames with a shield. The dragon exclaimed that this is impossible, because this is a person whom he will never forget in his eternal life. He exclaimed that this was the first king of Starshine Kingdom, Minatiles Starshine. Minatiles stood in front of him with a sword and shield in his hands, and the dragon asked why he was in front of him again, since he had been dead for hundreds of years. He exclaimed that this was impossible, it must be an illusion, and they would not be able to deceive him. The main character told him, holding Mina in his hands, to fight and find out whether it was an illusion or not. The dragon, collecting flames in its mouth, called them ants. Shooting a stream of flames using ultimate breath, he said, no matter how much they resist death, this final blow will turn them into ashes. A shockwave of energy spread around. The dragon said that even the hardest steel will melt under this ultimate breath. He said that he should not have used the image of Minatiles to provoke him. The voice said that he had better open his eyes wider. The dragon opened its mouth in shock. Minatiles, surrounded by flames, told him to take a closer look. He lifted his heavy leg. Kicking the ground hard, he asked if it was really an illusion. The dragon said that this is indeed the real power of Minatiles. He said that he saw his death with his own eyes, and he did not expect that the Star Core was hiding such heaven-defying power. Minatiles was rapidly approaching him, and the dragon exclaimed that this was impossible. Minatiles struck him with his sword, and the dragon asked if it was possible that this woman was really Minatiles. Cursing, he said that he could not kill him that time, so he would kill his descendant. Swinging his shield, Minatiles used parry. Parry, at the moment of being hit by an opponent, use a shield to deflect the attack, causing the opponent to be temporarily stunned and greatly enhancing the strength of your next move. House exclaimed that he has such a huge body, but can still use such a complex skill as parry. Gray said that he only knew about the first king from books and broken statues and did not expect to see his power in person. Dogu exclaimed that he was very strong, and his hair stood on end. The protagonist thought that the strength of the first king could not be denied, but his fatality was not enough to be avoided, and they needed to finish this battle before this flaw was exposed. The dragon, swearing, thought it was this move again. Minatiles swung his sword, and the dragon wondered why, even after hundreds of years, this overwhelming pressure still makes his heart tremble. The blade of the sword was moving closer to his face, and he thought that it was still making him instantly remember those memories of when he first met him. He remembered how Minatiles, standing before him, told him, sitting on the mountains of gold, to stop hiding in his cave and come out with him. He said that his name was Minatiles, the king of men, and he invited him to become his companion and together protect the world's soul. The dragon asked how dare a man stand in front of him and say such nonsense. Minatiles attacked and the dragon said that he was seeking death. He thought that although he was only 100 years old at the time and just beginning to grow up, he would never have imagined that he would be driven to the brink of death by an ordinary person. The dragon told him to do what he wanted, because he would never obey a person. Minatiles asked if this was true. Swinging his sword, he said that it would fulfill his wish, and he had better endure the pain of having his sinews pulled and skin peeled. The sword stopped in front of the trembling dragon's face, and she said that it seemed that even though he was a dragon, he was still afraid of death. He said that he would give him one last chance to escape. Minatiles said that he could hate him, and when he became strong enough, challenge him to a fight to the death, but until then he must work with him. The dragon thought how confident this man was. He thought that a man's life was barely 100 years when he could live thousands, and even if he didn't defeat him now, he would soon be able to kill him himself, so he agreed. Minatiles flew over the cheering crowd, standing on the back of a dragon. The dragon thought that before he could attack, Minatiles died in the First Starfall War, and he gained his freedom, but was unable to kill him with his own hands, which became his greatest regret. He wondered why even after hundreds of years he still couldn't shake his shadow. Minatiles struck the ground with his huge sword. The ground beneath their feet split in half, glowing yellow. The dragon thought that he was still afraid of his power. Stomping his foot, he asked why he made him remember his own weakness, why he did not leave him alone even after his death, using the same trick to subjugate him again to his descendant. The liquid poured out of the dragon's mouth, and he said that from now on he would never bow to anyone again. He shouted that no one could hold him back anymore. A chest fell to the ground among the orange liquid. Turning around, he laughed and shouted that no one would enslave him again, and he was free. Doggo exclaimed that the dragon actually flew away, and they survived. Gray asked the main character why he didn't kill the dragon with the final blow. Looking after the dragon, Bai Kai said that it was not on purpose. The time to summon the first king ran out. Scaring it off was the best result. He thought that, fortunately, the black dragon had not fully recovered from the first war and his mental state was unstable. Minatiles began to dissolve into thin air, and he thought that otherwise, with the current level of the princess, the summoned first king would definitely not be able to hold off the black dragon for long. Player has defeated Covenant of Justice, Cities, Red Fire Spider Boss, Guardian Dragon Deaglin Black, and earned 40,000 soul points. The following items have been obtained: ancient treasure chest covered in saliva. A treasure chest swallowed by the dragon long ago. No one knows its origin or contents. Great wealth and great death, perhaps just a moment apart. Doggo exclaimed in amazement that they had raised their level twice. He asked why he was not pleased at all. Gray said that seeing such incredible power in person must have made him feel insignificant. House asked that now was not the time for such sentimentality. He asked the protagonist if the princess was okay and what kind of use of the star core it was. The main character said that the princess's body is fine, but she is mentally exhausted. He said it would take her at least 10 days to rise. Touching her head, he said that the star core contained unimaginable power, activated by royal bloodline's heart blood. And for her safety, they must keep what just happened a secret. Otherwise, knowing the princess's strong character, she would definitely take her again. Take the risk, putting her on the ground. He said that this time he had no other choice to survive. He apologized. House asked why he was apologizing, since he did it to save them. He said that surviving an encounter with a black dragon is something they can brag about for the rest of their lives. He added that the princess herself agreed to this. Her strength and fearlessness can surpass imagination. The main character, agreeing, said that such a person is worthy of their lifelong loyalty. Looking at the chest, he said that it was time to leave this scorched forest. But before that there was something to do. He said they couldn't just leave this disgusting treasure chest. Someone agreed and said that this chest looked as if it contained something valuable. Someone else asked if they saw the words in the description about great wealth and great death in an instant. He asked what this meant. Laikai said that this means that this chest is most likely a trap. He wondered what was inside this chest, since it never appeared in the original game.